first off, I'm not a financial advisor. However, I created this channel pretty much to offer, I guess, financial discussion with a focus on long-term investments. So feel free to like, subscribe. For this stream, since it's a live stream, feel free to comment, ask questions, and we'll pick some out, hopefully. Alternatively, this is also based upon if we say a magic word that the YouTube algorithm doesn't like. Alternate stream is on facebook.com/Cabana Finance if YouTube does not work. But anyway, cut to the chase. I want to bring on my first guest, and I'm excited to do so. He's a unique guy. I've watched him for years now. I've learned a lot just in terms of crypto and investing. He also puts out some life advice videos as well, which are great, even talking business. So all that stuff's wonderful. Some fun facts about him. He bought sextoy.com for $70. He created one of the first internet affiliate programs. He bought Bitcoin for $350. Not many people can say that. And he was one of the first people I saw in the States to mention or tweet about the big C, that virus that everybody knows that has since upended economies all around the world. He was one of the first to mention that in his feed. He has well over 10,000 followers on YouTube. And I want to bring on Mr. Dave Levine.
Hello.
How you doing, man?
Very good. Thanks for having me.
Well, I can't wait to discuss a lot of topics with you. I think one of the things that I really enjoy about your streams is the time horizon that you have in terms of investing and picking out sort of your revolutionary names. And if some don't work out, you have no problem in saying adios. But others, you have, say, a multi-year time horizon, say like a Bitcoin or Ethereum or something like that, especially Ethereum. I know you're bullish on. We can get to that later. But I rattled off a bunch of bullet points about you, but if you could give the audience just a little bit more on your business background, how you got into finance, I think that'd be a great place for us to start.
In the 90s, I became fascinated with decentralization. And it was based on just from in college, noticing like how democracy took over the world and how free markets were beating centralized economies. And I saw these trends of what I liked and what I didn't like. And one day I had an epiphany. Oh, it's decentralization. Decentralization, when it works, when you have it, it tends to grow faster and become larger than a similar thing trying to do that in a centralized fashion. And that is why when I saw the web, I immediately was like, oh, this is going to be huge. It's decentralizing distribution of information. So I was like, I got to get on this. That's why I bought the domain, sextoy.com. It's not a fetish for the products. It was a fetish for profits. And then the affiliate program too. It was like, well, I got to do advertising, and you spend money and win or lose. It was like, well, I can decentralize my advertising by letting anybody advertise, and I only pay when it works. So this has been my thing. It took me a while to realize it's my thing because I've tried many things, but the things that have always worked is decentralization. When I saw Bitcoin, I didn't get too deep into it. I just thought, oh, decentralized money competing against centralized money. It's tiny now. That's the kind of thing I like. So I bought some. Not a huge investment, but it was an investment which went up a lot, became something. And now this whole crypto sphere, I was like, wow, this is a huge revolution in decentralization of value. This could be bigger than the web's decentralization of information. I became obsessed, and I found, and this is when I realized this about myself. I've always had this decentralization fetish, but now I realize that is my thing. It's sort of my strength. And it suddenly it's I think it's always been valuable, but suddenly I realize it's valuable, and it may be more than before. And so I've just sort of doubled down on that. And with crypto, there's a lot of investments, but my first thing is always, is it decentralized? And I only invest when it is. And that doesn't mean things that are not decentralized won't go up, but that's my niche. And for all the viewers who don't even know what the word decentralization means, I apologize.
Yeah, and I actually remember you in one of your recent videos, I think it might have been last month, just in terms of life and business advice, you actually highlighted decentralization as one of those key points that you talked about, which I find really interesting. It's like, it's not just a term involving crypto, it's an overall just thinking strategy.
Right. It comes up in other things, you know, should I, in my family, should it be, I'm the man and I'm here and the woman is below me, or as Bharat says, man, horse, woman, you know, but, you know, should I be like that, or should we be both be equal? I mean, and there's benefits and costs to each side, but I have this sort of filter. I'll go to the one where we're a flat organization, you know, and that's the trend I think the overall world is going. There's a bit of a battle with that right now with China and everything, but I believe that decentralization has been winning for hundreds of years now, and I believe it will continue.
Got it. All right, well, let's dive right into it. I guess the best place to start is just the overall economy. So we pretty much entered this year, you know, going to new highs, at new highs with, you know, mainly talking stocks. And then of course we had this, you know, massive pandemic that happened. Everything just across the board, not even just equities, but precious metals, cryptocurrencies, all just took a nosedive, you know, crashed. And since then, especially I want to say in equities, but pretty much everything has rebounded. It's interesting on the equity side because the employment data and economic data is just so terrible right now. And I do understand that, you know, stock markets are forward-looking mechanisms, but where do you think we are in just this overall picture? You know, I know I mentioned before, you were one of the first people I read about here to tweet about, identify, you know, the big C, as I'll call it, to avoid some algorithms. But yeah, where do you think, you know, just as in terms of country, where we are right now?
Well, first of all, there's two things. You know, are we talking about the economy, which I think of as just the sum total of business activity in the United States or in wherever range, right, versus the stock market, which could be could be all companies which are publicly traded, and you say it's bigger companies, or, you know, the S&P 500, which, you know, now you're getting down to primarily 5 companies. So we ask what is going on with Amazon, Google, Facebook, and whatever, 3 other companies.
Netflix.
Or are you asking what's going on with the average person, right? I mean, what is the question? Sort of not even just poking fun. I mean, because the two are kind of disconnected now. And I know I don't really look at, I'm not like an index guy, right? I sort of look for, you know, I get a long-term bet on one thing that I understand. And so some things are good. I like Tesla 5 years from now. It's a good long-term hold. Does that mean a lot of people aren't going to die of COVID and a lot of people lost their job? It does. And maybe Tesla goes down in the short run. But so the first thing, I'm just trying to understand exactly your question. What do you want to? Yeah,
sure. It's, I guess, a good answer to break them down. So I guess we can first just, you know, briefly touch on, you know, say the market. I know you're more, you know, into crypto and you're not a markets guy, but let's just touch on that first. So we've gone from all-time highs to, I don't even know the percentage decline, basically 30,000 to 18,000 in the Dow. And then back up to say 24. Yeah. So we're kind of like
in stocks. I probably have more stock. I mean, I have more stocks than I have crypto, but you know, even with that, I'm kind of focused. But the bottom line is, you know, the market, the central bank has been openly manipulating the market in the long term from the base level. You know, you could argue forever, but certainly since 2009. We will lower interest rates in order to push up the prices of risk assets. Stocks are a risk asset. So they've been openly manipulating the market to push prices higher. Now, so you say, well, I don't want to buy it because it's not real. But if it's not real for 10 years, it's still up, right? And if they manipulate it up and up and up for 10 years, you know, you can be right and about your theory that it's bad to manipulate. But if for 10 years you're right and the price keeps going up, you're wrong. So to me, I don't like bet. That's not my game, predicting what the Fed is going to do in this and that. But I think, so first of all, prices were high. Then the real economy gets nailed. And the Fed comes in and throws a bunch of money in it, which manipulates prices up again. Will it last? My bet is no, it doesn't last. I don't think, I mean, it's just going to be what we've had over the last, you know, the central bank model is when there's a problem and the system is at risk, they're the buyer of last resort and they print money and bail it out. And then the cycle begins again. And it's just getting bigger and happening faster and faster now. And the Fed did a huge bailout, you know, a few weeks ago. But the problem is they did it so early. I don't think you can possibly fill all the holes when we're not done digging holes. So I think there's another drop lower. And just my history with bubbles, I've been through many bubbles, and it's always the same in that it plummets a lot at first. Then it bounces back. And you think, well, maybe it's gone down, but I missed the low. And then it just goes lower. And this time we're all thinking, well, this time the Fed is printing so much so fast that this time it won't go lower. I just find that these fractals find a way to repeat themselves. Same thing when Bitcoin, when in 2018 and crypto started going down, I was like, well, in 2015 it went down, but you know, it was a really horrible time for Bitcoin. People were going to jail. It was a lot of fraud. And in 2018, like the ecosystem was actually fine and everything was going great. Just the price was under control. So I thought it would have been a shorter, I knew we were going down and the bubble had popped, but I was thinking it would be 1 year or less, as opposed to 2 or however long. And I guess it was, 2000, it did end. It was just a year. I mean, I thought it would be a half a year, I think. And then it was like a year downturn. So the bottom line is these things seem to happen. And the other thing that I stick to is usually with the economy, everybody's like, oh my God, if we go down 1% in the economy, you know, so much debt, we can't afford to go down 1%. And a recession is a decline like 1 or 2% for like 2 quarters. Mm-hmm. We felt like everything fell to like 70%. Like, and now they're like, oh, and it's up 30%. If you think about it, if you're here, if you fall 80% and then you come 80% of the way back, even if you come 90% of the way back, I'm not good with math, but you're still down like more than 2%. Like to me, if we used to freak out about going down by 2%, we're way past that. And there's a real issue with debt and insolvency. You know, listen, I don't know what's going to happen, but I like to bet in things that I'm very secure about and think I know what's going on. Right now, it looks like a mess. So I'm not optimistic about the market in general. I have a few bets I like. Genomics, there's a genomics fund I like, and that thing may never go down because, you know, that's become very important. There's less regulations. Like I said, I love Tesla. I always do. Elon, you see him, they don't care. They're shutting everything down. He said, F you, I'm going to we're still making cars. If you don't like it, arrest me. You know, he keeps going, and Tesla and all the other car companies going out of business. So there will be winners. And so you can still make money. But if you're talking about the overall situation, I'm very concerned in general.
Yeah, and to your point about people not being able to handle, say, a 2% decline, I strongly advise those people not to get into crypto, because it was just any up or down is magnified, say, by times 10 at least. But just
and I mean in the market, you talk about you know, CNBC and central bank. It's like, oh my God, you know, the economy's got to grow. Oh, if it's the whole economy doesn't grow by. It shrinks by 1%. This is going to cause so many problems. And now they're like, oh, we're only down by 5. It's great.
What do you think, I guess, just touching on this one last time, for, say, the U.S. consumer? activity is kind of just slowed to a standstill, depending upon what state you live in. Your restrictions could be lifted, or, we're slowly, getting out of our homes and whatnot. I saw an interesting statistic. I forget which city it was in China. I think it might have been TomTom data or something like that. But once, say, reality, started to get back to normal, people would go back to work during the week, but during the weekends, they would stay put. They're still scared to go out and live their normal life. And if that happens, then money's not being distributed throughout the economy and everyday life. Do you see that a similar situation happening here, to where, say, hey, we're all back to work, or, well, not all, but a lot of people start going back to work during the week, but just the discretionary income spend, is drastically slower, for the next year, or who knows how long?
Well, first of all, that it's sort of hard to guess. Like, maybe now I'm not spending money on a trip to wherever. Oh, so I'll spend my money on whatever, toys for the beach nearby. I don't know what. Probably I end up spending a little less. But to me, what's an easier question is, how many people have lost money? Even companies that are surviving. My brother has a travel company. He's been killing it for 20 years. As he's finally stopped yelling and screaming and calling me an asshole all day. Not that I have anything to do with it, but he's just like, yeah, well, this year sucks and I'm not as rich. He's lost money, and but how many people lost jobs? Those people are spending less money. There's definitely people spending less money this year because less people have money, they have less, and there's a little bit less to do. So I think that less, will be spent. Is that a bad thing? I don't know. I mean, maybe people saving. I mean, it's bad that people don't have the money to spend, but saving is not a horrible thing if you have money.
Yeah. And I guess that kind of ties into the next thing I want to bring up is Tesla. I know you're a huge fan, and you've been in it for a while, and you're a fan of Elon. That seems like a quite the discretionary purpose. I'm a fan of, the company revolutionizing the auto industry, and I know that's why you're in it. What do you see, say, for the next 5 years out? I know you mentioned you think Tesla could be a lot higher. What do you think happens in order for it to get there? Of course, they have.
I think it's the best car. Period. Hold on. It's the best car. And if you look at the price, you include the fact that it lasts forever, and with the cost of getting your electric refill, it is less expensive than similar really crappy cars. And honestly, I have a Tesla. When I look at, you show me the nice, I don't even care, a Lamborghini, some fancy Mercedes. I look at it and I just think it's funny. It looks like an old car. So it's the best car. It's sort of new, so it's not like everybody has it already. The price is low and getting lower. Their ability to manufacture, it's like a technology thing. They just keep producing more and more. You're going to see exponential growth in their ability to build the cars and reduce costs, like you see with computers. And this is not happening with all the other car companies. There really are, so the reason the price went from 200 to 800 this year was for the last bull case, which I said when everybody said it was horrible, was there's no demand, there is demand. And even with this world of less in demand, I just think there's way too much demand for the Tesla cars right now. I'm not worried about the demand problem now, especially wasn't a year ago. And then their ability to produce, they definitely are able to produce. So that's all baked in. Where was I going with this? The point is, it's just the best. I love owning something that is absolutely the best by far and has a cost advantage. And I really don't see competition. Oh, that's where I was going, is that there's been thoughts that, all the other car companies, they're going to catch up and they're going to get onto it. And those are big companies. And people have been saying that now for 5 years. And I'm pretty sure that when it comes to at least the battery, I'm not sure the exact statistic on this, the car companies still haven't matched the car Tesla produced in 2015 or earlier.
Right.
Like there's you can't compete with him. He's killing it. So I don't worry. And I love things that I can put aside and just, it's a long-term growth story. My thesis from the beginning was when they land on Mars, I'm selling my Tesla. Not that he's going to land on Mars. I mean, SpaceX is doing the Mars, but it's just like, he's so motivated with this vision and it's all happening. Once he gets to Mars, which I think is crazy, this whole going to Mars thing, you know, once he gets there, I'm like, okay, this story is played out and I will take my winnings.
Gotcha. So another great segue, by the way, talking revolutionary investing in industries. You mentioned space there. That certainly strikes me as one, just over the next, not even, decades, but, maybe a few years, just advances and things like that. I know, what is it? Richard Branson's stock, just went ridiculous from like 9 to 40 and back to 9. And, now it's, on its way back up.
15. I will get some at 9.
Okay. Awesome. Do you consider that to be one of the big revolutionary industries? I think you mentioned genomics earlier.
The other thing I like to follow are super experts or, winners, as I call them. It's like Elon Musk. He did, with his PayPal, and he's got Tesla and his SpaceX, and everything he does is amazing. Steve Jobs had the same thing, movies and phone and computer. Whatever he did, it was amazing. And there's certain people like that. And sometimes it's hard to predict someone will be that in the long run. But when I see somebody like that, I like to just follow them, right? So this Chamath, can I pronounce his last name?
I know who you mean, right?
6 months, Papitihaya or something. He's a genius. I love listening to him. And he has the same philosophy, and he's loved Tesla for a long time. He was in Bitcoin. I think he bought it at $70. He's a genius. And he likes the idea of these things that you work on for 10 years. So this Virgin Galactica, the idea is a plane that takes off, can go off into space. And one of the side benefits of that is that then you can travel from, New York to Australia in an hour. And that'll take 10 years. But that's where they're going, and they're the only one doing it. And, that's going to be huge. And so that's just like a 10-year story. You park your money there and you wait. Now, does it go from 15 to 9 next week? I don't know. And so what's funny is I love Chamath, and I saw this thing, and it was at $7 when I looked at it. Like the first day I looked at it, it was at 7. If you see the price history, it was 10, then it dropped to 7, and then it showed. And I looked at it at 7. I go, you know what? And I was closing on my house. I just want to wait for my house to close because then I have more money and I'm not as stupid. And it was like literally 4 days later. And then it was at 12. And I was like, shoot, I'll just wait for it to come down a little. And then it went all the way to 40. I'm like, by like 3 days, I just missed a, 30x move or 3x move. And then I was like, maybe it'll come back. Or I'll just wait. And I'm waiting and I'm waiting. And I'm like, I bet I will get it back. Because I heard Richard Branson needs money for Virgin Air. He's selling. So, and the price is coming down. I'm expecting the market to start coming down again. So maybe I will get in at, I like the dollar cost average. So if it hits 10, I would buy a little, hope it goes lower, 8 or 9, maybe it comes back to 7 and, who knows? And it may do shit for years. But that's a long-term hold.
Yeah. I mean, and that's sometimes the way those long-term investments have to go. I mean, you have your ups and downs. I mean, look at, something like a crypto like Bitcoin. And I mean, it in the long term, say 10 years from now, I think will be much higher, but it's those ups and downs of those initial years and going back and forth.
I lost my faith in Bitcoin. If there's a bull run that's right now or in this year, there's no doubt that Bitcoin goes up a lot along with it. But I don't know what happens over 5 years. And what if there isn't? I guess I hate to poo-poo Bitcoin, but I love, what do you call it? Ethereum, much better. Mm-hmm. And I still own Bitcoin, but only like the same amount that I have. I think I have more Kyber now than Bitcoin. So,
Yeah, I know you're a fan. We have a question from Clarence here. Chamath said that Virgin Galactic, or just a statement, I guess, has said Virgin Galactic's profit margin is equal to a software company. It's something like 40%.
Maybe it will be. I mean, I don't think they've launched. They haven't really launched yet. I don't think they have customers.
Maybe future, yeah.
Yeah, someday. I don't buy into some days. I believe that if there's one company that lets people fly from New York to Australia, that one company will be turning a nice profit, you know? So that's my theory.
Yeah, looks like he also agrees with you that he also wants to start DCAing in around $10. So at least that's the plan. You know, so hopefully it gets there. Just another question about sort of one of these revolution or virtual stocks. Peloton, you have any take on that one?
I don't follow it. My brother did a travel company and biking. He loves it, and it sounds like it's a great thing. It probably would have been awesome if you bought it before COVID. I don't follow it. It's probably up a lot now, which would scare me, but it seems like a nice company too. But that I have very few things that I feel like I love it when I have something and I feel like, you know, Peter Thiel talks about public secrets, I think he calls it, like something that's obvious, but nobody knows it. Like I think, for example, Ethereum's consensus algorithm or Ethereum's issuance rate will be lower than Bitcoin's. I'm very convinced this is going to happen. I think there's a lot of evidence to it, but nobody believes it. So if I'm right, that's what I'm betting on. I like, and so it's very rare that I have a thing that I feel like I know. And honestly, with Tesla now, I don't have, like a year ago, I was like, oh, I know there's no demand problem, and everyone thinks there's a demand problem. So I have an advantage. Occasionally I have these things where I feel like I have an advantage, and it doesn't happen with every stock and all the time. So Peloton, and it has to be something that you're really into and studying a lot. So with crypto, I feel like I have a lot of these because not many people are studying or know that much about it. You know, I have my thing with Tesla just because I'm obsessed with it and I own the car. And, you know, I see articles, and Elon Musk going to have auto driving. I'm like, I have a car. It's not seeing stop signs and red lights yet. So I know that I wouldn't buy based on that, you know. So Peloton, I don't know. don't have a deep thought on it. Yeah,
a good friend of mine was actually lucky to get it, I think below $20, right around the COVID thing. And it screamed, I think, past 30, and it could be past there by now. Again, like you, I'm not really too tuned in on the price of that one, but he's done very well with it. I know you mentioned some cryptos, and I guess that's a good time to get into some. I know you have a vast, well, compared to mine, a vast portfolio of, well, quite diverse, I should say, of crypto names. You often talk about it in your videos. Kyber is one you mentioned, of course, the main, you know, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and whatnot. Wanted to run through some notables of the top 40, if you have a take on some of these.
Yeah, I enjoy. I don't own actually that many, and some of the ones I own a tiny bit for like ZRX. I own a little, so I can do the staking and see how it works and see if I like it. But it's just enough to experiment. As far as real positions, I don't know. There might be 5 or 6 that I own, and most of it's in Ethereum. But as far as having an opinion on cryptos, you can go all through the top 40, and I have strong opinions about all of them.
Well, you touched on ZRX. I was going to touch on another one first, but let's do ZRX. Just, I guess, try to give a basic definition of it, but it's like a decentralized exchange protocol. Centralized
exchanges are growing, and it looks really good. Kyber, I've mentioned, has been growing 1,000% a year. It looks like in the 3rd year here, they're going to hit that number again. ZRX, it's harder to get the volume numbers. They exist, but you sort of have to, like, it's tricky to get what the volumes are. And they launched this thing where, and ZRX just hasn't kept up, but they upgraded. And then they have this thing where you can stake your tokens, which adds to liquidity, and you share in the profits. I was like, okay, this is cool. So I got a little and did the staking. And at first I was like, okay, this is cool. I'm getting, you know, it is paying out. And the payout was like, if you convert everything to dollars on the payout and do all this math. It looked like about 1% a year they pay in a dividend. Not much, but if it grows a lot and it looks like it's real, but then the amount they pay out in staking has been going down sort of dramatically.
Did they also change their staking period from like 7 to 10 days or vice versa?
10 to 7. I mean, whatever. That doesn't matter to me. But the amount of the payouts has gone down dramatically. Like there's almost no payouts now. There's only one company, one staking thing paying out, and they're paying out way less than they were before. So the staking doesn't seem to be working. Meanwhile, the price doubled. And although I only got a little to experiment, it turned into a little bit more. I mean, it literally was up more than 100%. So I even reduced my testing amount. I have still more because the one hope I have for ZRX, if you're familiar with Gods Unchained.
I've heard you talk about it.
I think this is a game that has a potential to be a mainstream game based on, Ethereum platform. And they're sort of getting close to launching mainstream. I don't know when that happens, but most of the Gods Unchained cards, I think, are traded on ZRX. Okay. I don't know that much about that, but that could maybe give some life to ZRX. But at this point, I've sort of lost faith in that. I was hopeful a month or two ago. I'm not that hopeful anymore.
Yeah, I think one of the ones I might be going back in the archives here regarding Gods Unchained was Loom, and that didn't pan out with Gods Unchained.
I thought that Loom was the foundation or the trading platform for Gods Unchained. I don't know where I got that from, and I was like, oh, cool. So Loom is good, and then I was like, oh shit, it's ZRX, and then I had the stupid Loom that was going down, and the only reason I had bought it was because of Gods Unchained. Again, just an experiment amount, so I'm not that stupid, but it's still whatever. I think I still might have $17 of it.
Oh, Loom?
Yeah, because I had some staked and it's a little bit left, and it's on my spread, and I was like, oh, it's only like $12 worth of Loom, but still have some.
Here's a question. How come the DAI savings rate, I know you're familiar with DAI, is stuck on 0, and when, if at any time it will change?
Well, I don't know if you want to get into the whole there's a whole stablecoin conversation, or you want me to just, right now, in order to keep DAI at the peg, when there was the whole crisis, dollar peg tokens, at first, everyone was running to dollar peg tokens. So all the dollar peg tokens went above $1. Then as things settled down, the dollar peg tokens that rely on fiat money as backing fell below $1 mostly, but not Tether. And that's another story. But DAI is persistently trading above $1. And that's because, so people are they want DAI. And so one way to do that is to make it so that, we want people to create more DAI, so then the price would come down. So they lower interest rates and lower interest rates. Well, now interest rates are at 0, and there's still not enough DAI. So interest rates are stuck at 0. This is a bit of a problem for the token, but they might be. I think they're sort of solving it by making Coinbase's coin, USDC, can be used as collateral, and then there's this arbitrage thing you can do, I believe, between USDC and DAI, because USDC trades a little below $1, but you can cash out at Coinbase at $1. It's a long. I look at that stuff. I'm like, arbitrage is not for me, but I think there's a way to sort of do some crazy trading, and that's why Maker added USDC as collateral in their system to help bring DAI to $1. Yeah, and if the market starts, this rally sort of keeps going, people might then get out of DAI so they can get into more crypto, and then the price of DAI, when the price starts to fall below, they raise interest rates. So we'll see.
I guess, we could stick with stable coins for a bit. It was, I forget which one of the Gs, G20, G8, whatever, mentioned, possibly or recommended, the banning of some stable coins. And I think that might come up in November or something like that. What are your, thoughts or reactions regarding that?
I think this is the main thing that people are ignoring, the main risk to the market, although we're not sure what the risk would be. If I think that there is a very easy way for the government to majorly disrupt crypto, which is targeting Tether. Tether USDT is like, I think 80+% of the stablecoin dollar peg market transactions. It's the #1 token volume. It's the biggest one on,
it's like top 3 or 4 now, isn't it? I mean, just if you're not counting it as a, a crypto or a fiat.
I think it's the most popular. I think it's the most
and market cap
and most owned and whatever. It's big. So, and the government could attack all of the banks and there probably aren't that many who would do the redemption. Like, part of the peg is kept by the idea that some of the big players can sort of cash in their USDT and get real dollars. Well, the government could cut that off, and then people could be worried about it. And if that happened, I think it would cause turmoil. But part of me thinks, on the other hand, USDT already, like, how great is it backed? And most people don't have access to that redemption anyways. It's sort of just this thing that floats anyways. Like, they might come after it and the price doesn't go down. Or maybe it goes to 90 cents and people keep using it. Or maybe people immediately switch. They go to DAI, or actually, you'd probably have to only go to DAI, because all the other USDC regulators could then come after that one if people are going into it. I don't know, but that would definitely, if the market's rallying, and then the government comes out and says USDT is no more, you're going to see a huge drop in the market. So but maybe people have nowhere to go who are in USDT, and they all go to Ethereum or Bitcoin, and then those go straight up. I don't know.
Any thought on the chance of USDC becoming, say, more of a digital currency here in the States? I know being listed on Coinbase is huge, and they don't just let anybody on there. Any thoughts on that? Say, 2 years down the road. I know even in one of these bills they've had in Congress, it's thrown in there, just in the back pages or something like that, about proposing digital currency. But you see USDC having any role, or something like a Fed coin?
It's a huge market, these dollar peg tokens, and there's a lot of room for everybody. So does Coinbase do well and make money? Probably. But I always come back to what my original thesis is, if two things are trying to do the same thing, I believe the decentralized one will grow faster and become larger than the others. So right now, MakerDAO is the most decentralized. So I would sort of bet on that in the long run. However, MakerDAO, I don't know how decentralized it is. I have my worries about it. I don't invest in the Maker token. That's another story. I do like DAI right now compared to the others, especially when I was earning 8% interest a while ago. But there's a new thing now they're working on, which I love. It's called a reflex bond. There's one, it's called RAI, R-A-I, that eventually comes out. It looks really smart. What they're doing is, there's no peg. It's this sort of math system where, so if this is if Ethereum goes like this, it's not pegged, but it'll do the same pattern, but much less. And it's a way to dampen volatility, which is really what we're trying to do. But it would be a reduced volatility token that has that is truly decentralized. The problem with MakerDAO is they're trying to be decentralized, but there's a lot of reasons why you could argue, they're using centralized coins as collateral. They have, there's this voting that goes on based on how much Maker you have. There's a lot of sort of threats to it becoming centralized, if it isn't even centralized today. So it's, so in the long run, I love this idea. It's called reflex bonds. Literally, they just dropped this white paper a few days ago, and this is a new thing. And I don't know, it probably doesn't launch for a year, but for now, dollar peg, yeah. So I don't remember the question. Where was I?
Oh, we're just talking USDC and that becoming.
So USDC. For a while, I was hating Coinbase. Lately, they're sort of now starting to think maybe they're not so stupid. They're doing all right. And that the USDC now, they seem cool with, you can load it onto compound. I mean, there's this centralized risk that the problem with USDC for me, when I think about it, is I'm always worried about that doomsday when the markets are called, the central bank is losing control. And then they say, okay, banks, you all have to close so we can steal a little bit from everybody.
Right.
They will go to Coinbase, say you're closed, and then and all of those coins they can shut off. And like, I just don't like that possibility. Granted, that might not happen, or I might see it coming. And I think that hurts when you're talking about worldwide adoption. I like having Coinbase token. I have an account at Coinbase for a lot of years. I live in America. Whatever. But if you're, secretly trading in China, hiding from your own government, and it probably wouldn't, and maybe it's not allowed, and you're doing something that's not fully regulated, I'd be scared to hold USDC. I'd rather have DAI if I'm that person, right? So that's why decentralization wins. USDC may do great for Americans and certain people, but when you talk about the whole world, people are going to want something that is like, oh, I want something that nobody owns, that I have, I don't have to worry about someone stealing my money.
Gotcha. You briefly touched on Maker there. I know you were, say, a bull, I don't know, 2 years ago, something like that. The price I'm just talking strictly price. It just seems to, over the years, go 300 to 800, and it's just always been stuck. And a lot of tokens now are having this feature where you can sort of measure earnings. It's not really earnings in the profit sense, so for example, Maker, how they make money, if they do make money, is so they charge an interest rate on loans, and then that gain goes to Maker. The token gets what do you call it? They burn tokens. So if they make money off interest rates, that's used to burn Maker tokens, and the token supply goes down, and that's how you would make money theoretically. But you can sort of calculate and earnings by saying, well, if they have this much in loans and the interest rate is this, then we know how much they're going to make per year, And if you look at Maker, it's like, well, now they have 0 interest rates. A while ago, they had 8% interest rates, but they were paying like 8% in savings rate to this DAI savings holder. So again, they were making nothing. And then you start thinking about, it's like, well, okay, what if eventually they actually try to make money? How much are they going to make? Maybe they make 1 or 2%. And then you look at how much in loans they would have to have if they're making 1 or 2%. If you think about it, that's their profit margin, is 1 or 2%. Now, it's just a smart contract. You don't need a huge amount of profit, for it to be good. But 1 or 2% with the valuation they have, to me, it makes no sense. So once I sort of put all that math together, I was like, I don't get it. Like, I like Maker. I hope they survive, but profit wise, I don't get it. And I got out of it. And luckily it was right before, the whole March 12th debacle. Mm-hmm. And the price went back to, like you said, it's been going between 3 and 800 forever. And I don't see it going much higher. I don't know how or why it would go higher unless people just buy whatever. I've always said, as long as BSV has value, as long as Bitcoin SV is above 0, fake Toshi's vision,
shit coins are alive, right? If that thing is not at 0, then anything can be overvalued.
Yeah,
that's the stupidest token of all.
Yeah, we can get there. Unfortunately, that we have to wait until the top 10 to get there, which is just horrible, like you said. But I'm trying to stick around, say the top 30, 40. Any familiarity with ICX? It's focused on interoperability between systems. It's, I think, mainly focused in South Korea right now. They build themselves as the network of blockchains with all this connectivity. Any take on that one?
What interoperability are they doing? Like, I don't see them doing anything. Like, the big interoperability right now, the number one is Bitcoin on Ethereum, right? That's huge. It's coming. A bunch of people are working on it. I love Ren because personally, I think they're going to do well with that. We'll see. It hasn't. I don't usually bet on things before they launch, and this one I'm sort of like have a little bet on. But so ICX, is there any interoperability with any tokens that they're actually already doing?
none that I know. I'm not too familiar with it. It's performed rather well over the past few months in comparison to a lot of other tokens. And again, it's mainly focused in Korea, which I know South Korea is huge for crypto. So
but again, that's just my thing. What I'm looking for is what's actually happening. So if ICX actually was helping Bitcoin operate on Ethereum, or helping, I don't know, BNB token on Ethereum, something of significance, there was some interoperability that they were actually doing, and then people weren't really recognizing that, or thinking it's awesome, then I would want to invest. But as far as I can see, they're doing nothing. Like, it's just a wallet. And this is, I remember 2017 when people were all excited about it, and I actually started a video. I didn't finish it. It was about how, I used to love in 2017 talking about tokens that will go to zero. I was going to do one on ICX. I never finished it. But it's just, even back then, it was like, I think it was something, I don't know what they were saying. I could never understand. And I just went to their website because you had put that in the email, ICX. And I looked at it, just looking at it, it says, we do interoperability, no further information. And it's like, oh, and we have a wallet. I'm like, okay, you got a wallet. Probably not even close to being the best wallet. So I see no value in it. Now, again, I see no value, but I haven't pushed the, but even, see, here's the thing. I can't study everything. Maybe there's something going on, or they'll come out with something eventually. But so far, I looked at their website. I asked you, as far as I can see, they're not doing anything today. So I don't buy it.
Got it. Sticking around that same area, just talking market cap, the basic attention token. I know, just talking to friends of mine, it's kind of easy to understand with the decentralization of the web, so to speak, and earning say rewards for actually opting in for advertising. How do you feel about that one?
So it's funny, when the browser first came out and people were all excited about the token, I was like, I don't know. Listen, if the browser has 1 million downloads, then I'll look at it. Well, they went way past 1 million downloads. I was like, okay, now I'll look at it. And then, so I like the browser. I like the idea. Some of the things, as far as seeing advertising, I don't really care. Like, I'll use the browser sometimes. I have it for, it's like for crypto. So maybe I'd use it for some crypto things. But as far as blocking ads, I could care less. It's a nice little browser. But still, even if other people love it, how does that token accrue value in any meaningful way? I mean, maybe it's a, points on an airline, right? Those have value. You want to give me 1 million points on Delta? Great, I'll take those. But am I going to invest in Delta points? No. And again, now this one I haven't dug that deep, and what is their policy? But so I don't think it's I assume it's like there's some huge amount of tokens, and that company, the name, the Brave organization, owns a majority of them, so they could dilute it at any moment. And what is it's just like, it looks to me like it's just like a points sort of reward system, which helps the company, and that might be great. And maybe Brave, the browser business, I was going to say, maybe the Brave equity in the Brave company could be good. But I don't know how you make money in the browser business. So yeah, it's not for me, but I don't know. Maybe. I have to be in love. I like Brave browser. I don't hate it, but I just don't see where the value is.
I use it, but really, if you use it, say, all day for a work day, you get, I think, one bat, which is, I don't even know what it's going for now, 21 cents or something. So it's like, there's no incentive to, just use the browser and you're going to, be wealthy one day. But it is just a cool idea, like you said. And, it's like a cool gimmick for Brave to get more users. I'm just not sure it's worth investing, getting a big position in that token. If you're a kid and you surf a lot, and you get $10 in a year, you're like, cool. Like, for me, I don't care if I make another $10, and that might be cool for Brave browser, but yeah, but as far as a big investment. Yeah. Well, you mentioned BSV earlier, and while we're not there in terms of climbing up the market cap chart, one that strikes the same nerve in me and probably you, if I know anything, is Tron. That thing and Justin Sun. I mean, if you have, my thinking is if you have to just promote, and that's basically all your project is, in my humble opinion. And not rely on actual use and real world stats, then it's like, okay, what do you have going for you then? He is a master marketer, I'll give him that. I mean, he's everywhere. But regarding TRX, what do you have?
Well, first of all, I've always said there's a fine line between being good at marketing and being a scammer. Like, it's just like, it's a slippery slope, because you exaggerate, it's sort of like, this is the greatest product. And then it's like, and all before you know it, you're saying shit that really isn't true. And like, so you can call him a good marketer, but to me, he's crossed the line too many times, this Justin Sun. And I think he's shady. I just go with shady because it's too much. Like for example, who's started Alibaba, Jack Ma. Justin Sun. He's my mentor. I don't know. However he phrased it, like he and Jack Ma work together. It was like he went to a school that Jack Ma owns. You know what I mean? And it's just like, if it was a one-time event, he's constantly, and now if you see the stuff that's going on with Steam, I mean, he's really just trying to steal money from people. Like, again, still, I don't have to make it a difficult decision because for me, I only like to follow people I think are amazing, like that I love. This guy, I tend to kind of hate him, but as far as investing, I definitely don't love him. Like, and I just think he's super sketchy. And also, yeah, it's just a centralized shitcoin anyways. I would not get near it. Hate it.
Justin Sun will do giveaways and then give the expensive items to his own bot accounts. That's great.
Oh yeah, it was a whole thing. He's like gonna give away with Tesla, and then he was like, "Oh, sorry, I'm not giving away one," and then he bought one for a friend or something. I don't know.
Hey, appreciate it, RG. We're doing our best as we get through the top 30, top 20 here. Coming up on this CRO, which I guess is for crypto.com. This one just kind of came up this morning as I found the app on my phone that I downloaded a long time ago. You have any thoughts on these crypto debit cards? For me, it's if I have crypto and I think it's going to appreciate in value, I want to keep that crypto instead of using it, on some debit card. And I know it's to promote adoption, which is great. And I hope the whole world, catches fire with it and just uses the crap out of it, and crypto, blows up faster than what we think it will. But any thoughts on these crypto debit cards?
Well, when you say these, I don't know if there's my thought. The only time the debit card comes into my thinking is again, I'm always prepared for end of world scenario, and most of the time that's kind of a waste of time, but I am. And I was glad I had that outlook in March when it looked like,
really, yeah,
going to happen. But one of my things I like to do is not have all my money in one bank, right? So you got Bank of America, you've got JP Morgan. And because I feel like if there's a situation, they close the banks for a week and you can only withdraw so much. It's like this whole FDIC thing is sort of a joke. It's not real. So I like to have more places. And one place that I consider now to be a bank is Coinbase. Now, they actually have some real collateral. I can get the hell out of the whole system in a minute from Coinbase, right? Just buy some Ethereum and send it to a wallet. I'm out of there. So to me, Coinbase is another place to put my money. So, and I do have some US dollars, not even USDC, just USD in Coinbase. Well, so that's almost like a bank now. So, okay, it would be cool to have a debit card for that one bank account, right? And I would just for dollars. So beyond that, I mean, I don't know if there's debit cards where people, like you're saying, then they convert their.
Yeah, and they offer, I know I'm speaking mainly from experience with crypto.com, which there's a shill link in the description if you want a free $50 to try it out. and along with Dave's channel as well. That's listed in the description below. They offer some perks, and as say the more, I think it's, what is it, MCO is their token. The more you lock up, the more perks that you get. So you get like free Netflix and Spotify and whatnot. And they're trying to entice users to come in, and you put that money into their token, lock it up, and then you also get crypto discounts. So you get, say, you know, they offer these discounted deals, which is pretty neat. I think that's, you know, as
it's all cute and fun, but I have my Chase card, Amazon Chase card, and I get 5% back when I purchase in Amazon, which is almost all of my purchasing, or Whole Foods, which is right next door where I do buy almost all my food, and I get 5% back. I haven't seen any crypto card, and I don't want to spend my Ethereum or any token. And, you know, I don't know what Coinbase is offering, but I don't think it's going to beat Amazon. So and for any card that's like, it's somehow it's like decentralized and it's with crypto tokens or whatever, if it starts getting big, they'll just shut it down. Like, who cares? I remember, what was that one that was so popular in 2017? Now I forget the name. The guy, he was a doctor, but he's a surfer. Everyone thought it was going to the moon, and I was like, they'll just shut him down. And sure enough, shut him down, you know.
Speaking, I think we're right in the middle of the top 40 here, which is alts. And that brings up the subject of alt season as we're kind of climbing the ranks. Do you believe there will be one? I saw a really interesting chart this morning for Bitcoin dominance. And it looks to me, you know, I'm no huge technical analyst, but I can read a chart. And there's a giant, you know, negative wick there on the weekly. And it looks, you know, pretty baked. And we're at a point now where, you know, Bitcoin's, you know, say, you know, between 9 and 10K fluctuating around. Do you think we'll have, say, an alt season before, you know, we get that ride up, you know, past 10K and once we finally break that? Or do you subscribe to the idea, and the other main one is that we have to get past all-time highs before people start to feel more secure and, you know, have their Bitcoin money, and then they feel more secure about, you know, diversifying away. And then, you know, that's when, you know, the Ethereum takes off, even though personally I'm more bullish right now on Ethereum than Bitcoin.
Well, first of all, I hate the term altcoins unless you're actually referring to a Bitcoin. You know, originally it was like there's Bitcoin, and then like Litecoin was like, okay, we're the same as Bitcoin, but our blocks are smaller, and, you know, there's 2 other tweaks. And then you had, you know, Zcash was like, well, we're Bitcoin, but we're working on privacy. And now Zcash has nothing to do with Bitcoin anymore. It's not even relatable. But at the time, you know, and that was the idea of alts, and they were all tiny. Anyways, if there's any coin you define as an altcoin, I would say not to buy it. It should be like Ethereum is not an altcoin. It's a platform for building decentralized applications. It's a trust layer, whatever you want to call it. It's not an altcoin. And so, you know, the question I think people are really getting into is, do you think the smaller market cap or new, you know, tokens will do better than the bigger, more established ones, or the biggest one, Bitcoin? You know, that's sort of the question. And I don't make bets like that. My thing is, so I own, you know, whatever, 10x more Ethereum than I own Kyber. Now, that isn't because maybe it is because the point is, so Kyber is so small, which means 2 things. And if you get into why I like it, and what the risk factor is, it's just like, it's so new and it's so volatile. Like, it could go way up. It could also go way down. Like, it could become irrelevant in 2 years. Like, if there's enough, you know, this is a very vibrant market they're in, it could just like go away, even though it's awesome. Like, I remember when I was talking about Stellar and nobody knew why the transactions were going up every day, more and more transactions. I was like, what is causing this? And this looks great. Maybe it's IBM. And then all of a sudden they went to 0 because it was one scammer running a bunch of transactions. It was nothing, you know? And Kyber, I'm not as worried about as that Stellar situation, but these things can just go away. So you don't want to have a lot of money because it could go to zero. Whereas Ethereum, oh, maybe in a number of years, there'll be a competitor or whatever, but it's not going to just, it can't change as fast. So smaller coins are riskier because it's easier for them to sort of disappear. And so you don't want to put as much money in it. I mean, again, I'm always worried about the downside. I like the upside, but I'm very scared. I don't like going to zero. And if I do go to zero, it's with a tiny thing. So but on the other hand, if things start booming and liquidity's coming in, it's way easier for those small ones to boom up. So the bottom line is, for me, I have a portfolio that has, my biggest holding is Ethereum, because I feel the absolute most safest 5 years from now with it. Whereas these small tokens I have less of, but I know it could go to the moon if it's successful, like REN, if it actually works and it becomes the #1 way to get Bitcoin onto Ethereum, that thing will go from 10 cents to $10 in 5 years. But it turns out it might not even work and is gone in a year, right? So I hold enough that I could make my money, and a little enough, and then I'll get the hell out of it. Hopefully I'll see it going to zero before everyone else does. Point is, little ones always can go up a lot. They can go down a lot, and you don't want to pile in and just look for a trend. Oh, they're all going to go up now, so I'll just throw my money in small ones. You got to have a balanced portfolio that balances, risk, reward, and such. Did that answer your question?
I certainly think so. I mean,
and also regarding lately, to be honest, these things have been, Kyber for a long time was at 20 cents. Now it's hanging solidly at 60. The numbers,
it was screaming recently.
It's based on real growth. My REN, now we're up to 10 cents. Like they've got, and I like Zcash too. And that, granted, I looked at the charts when I was talking to Richard Hart, and he was like, "Oh, let's get the worst." I said I liked it because it was down, and we looked at the long-term chart. I literally liked it was like $28, and I was like, I caught the low. I will not take credit for being smart. It just happened to be the right time for me. Mm-hmm. And it went up like literally the day after I bought it and hasn't looked back. So,
well, you bring up Zcash there, and when I think Zcash, privacy obviously comes to mind, and of course Monero. Those are the two that strike me as, it's the battle for privacy in a sense. Where do you see the privacy issue going? Because the only thing I can see standing, to me, that's why crypto was invented. Like a Monero or Zcash is more along the lines of a real cryptocurrency, the fungibility and whatnot. But I just think of, say, the U.S. government, and, you have, say, like a Steve Mnuchin, who could come in and, he's not even necessarily friendly to something like Bitcoin. I don't even want to think about, something like an XMR or Zcash, which is, much more private and, crypto, true crypto. So where do you see the future of that going? Well,
first of all, I mean, privacy, just to give an example, because everybody thinks the only reason you want to be private is because you're going to steal money. So I have a cousin, it was his birthday. I wanted to give him 1 Ethereum. Now, if you know about how these things work, if I send him 1 Ethereum, and granted, this kid doesn't know anything. He doesn't even know what Ethereum is, but you could look and see it came from my wallet, and then you see it's my wallet, and you can see everything I've done for the last, I don't know how long.
Yep.
I don't know, not that I have anything to hide, but why do I need to share my history with just my cousin who I want to send one to? So there's a feature on Ethereum, this Tornado Cash. You put one in, you wait a couple days, and they mix with all these other ones, and then you pull one out, and you have a clean Ethereum. And I pulled it out and into a new wallet and gave him that. So he had a clean. So I was able to have some privacy. And also, I've thought of things with charity. I have an idea I'm working on, which will be, you've heard me talk about teaching kids about money, and I have this course idea like Shark Tank. And if you do a presentation, I'm going to send you, Trump sent me $1,700. I plan on giving it all out to kids who do my course. But anyways, if I'm going to send some kids $50 and DAI, I don't want to do it out of my main account. I want some privacy, right? So first of all, that's the need. And I used to say privacy is a feature. It's not a coin. You don't need a privacy coin. It'll be just a feature. I used to say on Bitcoin and Ethereum, now I would say it's a feature that will be on Ethereum. But privacy turns out to be new. Like there's all different types of privacy and levels of privacy, depending on what you're doing. Maybe you just want to hide your name, but not the amount, or maybe you want to hide, whatever it is. Or you want to, well, anyways. So there's a lot of features to it, but Zcash, what I saw happening is just like Bitcoin is coming to Ethereum, Zcash is coming to Ethereum. And a lot of these privacy features now, I don't know that Tornado Cash is actually working on it, but there's a lot of privacy features coming on Ethereum. And one of the first things they're doing is making it integrated with Zcash. And so I just see a lot of liquidity and use case coming for Zcash. And the guy who runs it, this Zuko Wilcox, super straightforward guy who regulators in the US and it's in Coinbase and it's in Gemini, and those aren't shielded and it's not private at all. But then you can go on the Zcash blockchain and trade with real privacy. And then you'll be able to bring it on to Ethereum and do all those things. So all of a sudden, I think it's becoming the leading complete privacy token. If you want to do some private things on Ethereum and then just take it and store it super privately on the Zcash blockchain, that might be something people want to do. That becomes your Swiss bank account, which, that's where the shady people do go, but whatever, And then XMR, I don't see anything happening. I don't hear about anything. All I know, Bitcoiners love it. XMR, but Monero, Bitcoiners love it. And I've heard they had good developers and all this, but as Bitcoiners know, it's not about the technology. It's about the market size and liquidity and adoption. And I don't see it happening with Monero. And I used to want no privacy coins. I like Zcash, but Monero, I'm not interested in really.
All right. Getting close to the top 10 now. I know you brought up Stellar before and the, I guess, quote, fake transactions that we were seeing on that graph. I remember you pulled them up, probably for a couple months there, and we were like, where are all these things coming from? And, it was just this super mystery. And of course, you rattled off the answer to it there.
Doing that too. And I'm glad I was saying, it was so this looks good, but until we know what it's coming from, you don't buy based on this, because what is it? Maybe it is something shady, and it turned out to be something completely stupid. And thank God, I was just surprised that it took 2 months, and then finally it was after they all disappeared, finally someone posted in the comments what it was. I still didn't even know. It took so long to figure out what it was. Anyways, what was your Stellar question?
Oh, we got one here. Will we ever get info on what was going on with XLM, that IBM super secretive thing? And I know you were trying to get info from, what's his name, Jesse Lund at some point, and then he kind of went off the map, and he's not even involved with it anymore. But so just in terms of the project in general, really.
I like Jed McCaleb. He's a good guy. He works hard. He's been successful for a lot of things. I feel like, or I'm somewhat hopeful that someday they'll find a niche in the payments business. What they're mostly banking on right now is they're working on an app for Latin America that'll let people get into a dollar peg token. And it'll just be free and easy type of thing. And they've got banks in different Latin American countries that'll let people convert from their local currency into a dollar peg token on this app, which will be free, and then sending the money around will be free. And they hope that goes viral. If it does, that's when I would be okay, I'd like to get back into XLM. The problem is that's only step one for the token getting value, because keep in mind, if the Stellar network is super popular and this app is super popular and everybody's sending money around for free, that doesn't mean that XLM does anything. All of that can operate with XLM at less than a penny. So when do you buy XLM is when you start to think there's either a reason. A lot of projects, and again, back to Kyber, they seem to do everything right, is as they upgrade their system, they're creating incentives. Even Ethereum is doing this. Incentives built into the protocol to add value to the token. So it's not just adoption. It's adoption with the token, and not in a bullshit like rent seeking or, you know, you have to use a key to get in the doorway, but it's just integral to the system so that value accrues to the token. And Stellar doesn't have any of that. Like, and Jed McCaleb at the beginning, I think he didn't see the mania over tokens that was going to happen. If he did, he might have wanted to get in on it. Like, cause now he sort of like wants his token to be high in value, but he used to just be like, he tried to create a platform that had no token. He just wanted to be decentralized with no token. Couldn't figure out a way. It has to have one at least to prevent spam. And
didn't they burn like half of the supply?
Yeah, because he realizes it's good to have some value in the token, but at the same time, there's no. If it starts to go, if that app in Latin America goes viral, I would get some Stellar. But I'm not telling you it would definitely go up in value because, like I said, it could. They could, that network could be buzzing and booming, and the price of XLM be zero. Not zero, but you know, a penny. So, but at the same time, they'll probably start working on that once everything's going viral. So I watch it, but I'm not investing today because I don't see how it goes up.
All
and
right.
That being said, when I say how it's not going to go up, the other thing is with all of these tokens, if everything goes up, everything goes up. So someday now, Stellar, oh, you said it wasn't going to go up, and it went, and it doubled in price, but everything doubled in price. Oh, and Ethereum went up 300% in price, right? So my biggest fear in buying shitcoins, and the Stellar's not a shitcoin, in buying things I don't like is if it goes down and then things don't work out, you know, now I can't even wait my 5 years and I sell low.
Yeah. All right, moving on to quite the popular one right now, and I know you mentioned in your latest crypto video is Chainlink. You know, connecting, you know, smart contracts across blockchains, oracles. I mean, they're working, I believe, with Swift, and their partner list is great. I hate mentioning the word partner because then the word Ripple comes to mind because all they do is like brag on partnerships and whatnot. But you know, just in terms of price and what they have going for them, they seem to be getting their hands into a lot of legit stuff. And you know, if you comment on like,
well, you know, I partnered with Google because they let me have a Google channel, and I also have partnered with Amazon where I talked to them and they're allowing me to do hosting on AWS. So, you know, with those two partners, I believe that, you know, anything is possible. You know, that whole partner thing, yeah, is stupid. Link. So oracles are important. When I first, you know, and for those who, you know, that means if you want to have some smart contract that does something, if the price of Ethereum to US dollar hits X, well, how do you know the price hits X? You need a way to get that price feed and make sure that price feed can't be manipulated. So that's been a difficult problem for a while and very important for a lot of systems. And Link says, oh, we're going to focus on that. So that's cool. And they seem to have been doing okay with it. But, and I'm gonna get to why I think Uniswap version 2 is gonna eat Chainlink's lunch. But before that, because that just launched, you know, I was seeing problems with Link. One is I watched their amount of gas fees they spend, and it's to run their system, and it's been going sort of down and down. Maybe that means they became more efficient, or maybe it means less people are using them. The other thing is it's not decentralized at all. They have this theory of how they can get there, but it's nowhere near being decentralized. It's, you know, you could look at it like a private company that says, listen, what we focus on, you pay us money and we'll give you price feeds and we're pretty good at it. You know, we're centralized, but we're pretty good. And okay, it's better than whatever else they have. And maybe people use them, but it's not decentralized. So I became disillusioned with or uninterested in the Chainlink because of that. But now, so Uniswap, if you're familiar with Uniswap, should I explain what Uniswap is, or you think people know?
I think it's actually a very good thing to explain. Just I'm familiar with it because of Hex, and you know I've messed around with that. But
so Uniswap is a decentralized exchange that is the most decentralized. A kid. You know, he was looking for something to do after college, and he was friends with, can't remember the guy's name. He was friends with a Vitalik, and his friend said, Oh, look at this paper that Vitalik wrote about a cool way to make a smart contract exchange. You should just make that. And kid was like, okay. So we worked on it for a couple months and launched it. You know, now it's done like $1 billion. It's just a smart contract that automates trades based on a simple algorithm, you know, X times Y equals K, you know, and I'm not going to, I'm not a math guy, so I'm not going to try to explain it, but it's just like, it's run by no one, totally decentralized, getting huge volume. But now we just upgraded to the next version. And one of the things included is a way to use it as a price oracle. So now one of the issues was, oh, you could say, well, Uniswap is decentralized, so we'll just get the price of Ethereum to US dollar from Uniswap. But then someone could go and just throw a ton of volume at it and mess up the price. So they created a thing where you can do your own little algorithm to grab the price over a period of time and average it and do things like, well, if the price does spike a lot within this recent period of time, you discount that. And basically there's ways to make, it's probably the best way to get a price oracle is through Uniswap version 2, and it's probably free, you know. So I think Chainlink has got, now there are other types of oracles, like there could be things like if someone wins based on betting in baseball games, how do you know someone won the game? And like, that's not going to go through Uniswap, right? So maybe they have a thing with 5 different news organizations and whatever, you know, maybe Chainlink may survive. And maybe the equity makes sense. I don't see how the token does anything right now unless they use it for this decentralization. I wouldn't buy the token.
Gotcha. All right, moving on up, we have the. Oh, go ahead.
One thing I was going to say too is, you know, one reason I like the idea when you said to have this interview is sometimes I talk too fast. I talk about, it's like, oh, Uniswap, and like no one knows what Uniswap is because I'm in my own bubble. Feel free to ask me questions, and if you don't understand what I'm talking about, I guarantee you other people don't as well. So feel free to like say what and ask follow-up questions, and if I'm not making sense, let me know.
No, this is great, and I'm glad you brought that up because this is pretty much, you know, kind of why I wanted to create this channel. I talk to so many people that, you know, are investing their money, but they have so many basic questions. And, you know, I know, you know way more than, you know, the average investor, but you're also good at explaining things. But just something as simple as Bitcoin. And, you know, you bring it up and a lot of people just think, oh, well, I don't have $9,200. I can't buy a Bitcoin. And you say, oh, well, you know, just buy 100th of one for like $90. I can do that. What? And, you know, you can buy a portion of an Ethereum. You know, it's just these, you know, small educational points of, you know, these evolving industries that I think, you know, the more people, you know, that realize it, you know, the faster adoption can happen. And, you know, it's answering these questions and having discussions like this, I think is really valuable. So,
you know, for beginners listening too, for most people, now keep in mind, so I'm 50, been on the internet, early on the internet, running a business, investor for a lot of years. I have a lot of experience and I'm able to like analyze these small things, and I get it wrong. And plus, like, this is like my job now, you know. So if you're just like, you know enough to like, no, there's something good here, like just buy your Bitcoin or Ethereum. I say Ethereum, and put it away. All this other stuff, keep studying. And, you know, especially if you're really young investing, I was the worst investor for a long time, like until I learned how much, you know, there's a lot of things. So don't get too crazy. It's fun to follow, and you should study and follow. Maybe have like either you're buying very small amounts or like a play portfolio, because it's good to have sort of that tracking. It's one thing to say in your head, oh, I like this, and then it goes up and you're like, oh, I liked it, I knew. And the other one that you liked that went down, you forgot that you used to like it. Like it, you know, it's good to have accountability, but getting an education through investing can be very expensive.
Yes, you pay for those lessons.
I spent a lot of money on my education. I'll tell you that. 2009, I learned a lot, and I did 4 years of college in 3 months.
Oh yeah, depending upon a trade, you can learn a lot in a hurry. That it took.
I don't just mean how much I learned. I mean how much I spent. How much money I lost. I would have been better off going to Harvard for 6 years.
Yep. All right, moving on up. This one is an interesting one. I'm very curious about your take on it. Is ADA Cardano? They have. They've been talking about Shelly for, it seems like, years now, and pretty much every project, it's almost become its own meme, to where it's like, oh, well, it's coming out next month or next year, and it just keeps getting pushed back. They're trying to, I guess, ramp up with the Ethereum 2.0 coming, and Charles Hoskinson, he swears this is it. This is Shelly's actually coming.
I just looked it up, and he's doubling down on
right.
Bullshit. As I said in 2017, I was like, it will never launch, because it's just this mindset. I've seen it in business, the idea, the goal for perfection and to solve all problems before you launch means you're not going to launch. Like, it's just, and in 2017, it was like, oh, it's never going to launch. If you had, at that point, if you had said it's going to launch in 5 years, that would have been still a victory for me. Now that we're, 2020, maybe it launches decentralized some point, like it's maybe, but I just went, you put that in the email, so I go to this website, Cardano roadmap, roadmap.cardano.org. They still have on the website, oh wait, this is not the roadmap, now I lost my link. Well, whatever, if you search Cardano roadmap, let me see if I see it. Yeah. Okay, because I had it on small. If you go there, they still show on the page Shelly decentralization launching in first quarter of 2018. They haven't even updated their website to the fact that they haven't done it yet. Like, you know what I mean? So now, and then I was like, maybe they didn't. I was thinking, because I don't follow it that closely anymore. Maybe it launched. Maybe it is decentralized. And then I found an article. Is this it here? What is this? Shoot, I don't know where that quote is. But basically, he said something to the effect, Cardano is going to be 80 to 100 times more decentralized than Ethereum and Bitcoin once a few upgrades are in place. So it's coming. Oh, it's late. Oh, but it's late, but it's okay, because it's going to be even better than we said it was going to be. And it just plays into he's going for perfection, doesn't care how long it takes. Problem is, you never get to perfection. They won't launch. I mean, listen, I don't follow it. Maybe something. And even if they do launch, they have to, oh God. And Cardano, the problem with Cardano, this Charles
Hoskinson. Yeah.
Hoskinson. He's so smarter than everybody. And a lot of the people who love Cardano, they take on this, I'm smarter than everybody, because we know that Cardano is the best, and it does nothing. I hate it.
Cardano equals.
I have a follow-up question, but
oh man, you are correct, Ryan. Had a few questions about XTZ. Here's the latest one, and I think we're there in our climb up the market cap ladder. So a lot going on with XTZ. I know you follow leaders and and good investors, I guess, also, and a lot of guys I follow who aren't into, say, something like a Cardano or something like that. They have a small share of Tezos, and the whole staking thing has really taken hold with them first, obviously, because ETH 2.0 isn't out yet. But I think, I forget the percentage of it, 80+% of their tokens are staked on the network and whatnot. We can get into, I guess, the staking conversation a little later, because obviously ETH 2.0 will come up. But regarding, say, STOs, security token offerings, which I think Tezos is kind of going after that to, tokenizing, a piece of real estate or something like that. Do you believe that there's two sides of it? One side says, it's just kind of like a gimmicky kind of thing. The other side is, oh yeah, STOs are going to be a huge part of crypto going forward, even something like stocks or something like that. What's your take on it?
Well, the security tokens are stocks, right? I mean, that's what stocks are, securities. So the idea that makes it interesting, like I can already buy stocks. I don't know. So who cares? Well, the idea is that there's more liquidity. Imagine if anybody in the world could go and with no account buy Tesla's stock on Uniswap. I think that would make the price go up because there's more buyers, right? Or there's a lot of, securities that are not publicly traded. So they don't have liquidity. Like I got a small business. What if I could take that security and now I put that on Uniswap? I would think the price would go up because you improve liquidity. But if it's just Tezos only having accredited investors in the US can now buy these things, I don't know, maybe something happens there, but that's not that exciting to me. It is that decentralization, So I do believe that adding liquidity, all things being held equal, an investment that has no liquidity is not worth as much as that same investment with liquidity, meaning your ability to get in and out of it when you want. Like that adds value to the investment. So if securities used decentralized networks to get more liquidity, then I think that's good. But if it's just, oh, I've got a Tesla stock, but now it's on Tezos, but I can't move it anywhere and nobody else is on Tezos to trade it with, like, what do I care? So Tezos, I wasn't interested in the beginning because I didn't believe in the philosophy, which was their thing was like, okay, Bitcoin's great, but they have governance issues, right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to be like Bitcoin, but we're going to have this system for governance. And what's the first thing that happened is they had some governance disaster. But maybe they've gotten that under control or whatever, but I don't believe in governance. Like I think if humans are involved, it's just a matter of time before it gets centralized. And if there is some sort of algorithm that allows humans to control things with their brain, as opposed to, Bitcoin is governed by humans only based on the incentive to make money, right? So the miners are just trying to make money, and all of those people put together are part of the algorithm, right? You have to get 50%, but if you get to 50%, you've bought into the system. So now you don't want to screw it. So humans are part of the algorithm in a way, but not by us all thinking and being smart and coming up with good ideas. It's just based on our instinctive incentive. Any of these governance models that is voting and all of that, I don't believe in it. And if it's going to work, maybe after 100 failures, we'll find one that kind of works. So I didn't like Tezos for that. And then finally, there's no volume right now in Tezos. Yes, people have bought the token and they're staking it. Okay, I guess that's something. And maybe someday, again, if anything starts happening, I'm not very into, I don't think it's going to work and therefore I hate it and forever, It's just like right now, nothing's happening. If something starts happening, like someone posted on Twitter recently, it was like, oh, I looked at EOS and Tezos today, 2 transactions per block or something. It's like nothing's happening. So I don't care. If something starts happening, I'll love it. Right now, what is the value?
Yeah. And it kind of goes back to your point about Stellar too, is, you have the right to be like, hey, it's not for me right now. But if you see something going on, say in Latin America, you can certainly jump right back in. But if you're waiting to see something, that's the way to do it. And, wait for your pitch. You don't have to just be like, all right, I'm in, and then hope. So.
Right. And then I also like investments, that, I think with Kyber, I liked them for something, and then they did some more things that were good, and then volume went up, so I got a little bit more, and then they did that, and then I like this upgrade that's coming, and I see how they're going to pay dividends, and I'm like, and I get more evidence in, and it's like, oh, and then I get a little bit more, and then that goes the other way. I had bought LivePeer a while ago to test that out, and the staking, I mean, if you tried to make a UX that was confusing at every moment, LivePeer wants to hire you. I mean, it was the staking. I could not figure out their staking system, including having multiple discussions with their support staff, or their admin, whoever was he was like, oh, I'll update that. That's a good point. And I would ask him all these questions. I still couldn't figure out what the hell was going on with it. And then other things, and then so the deeper I dug, the more I didn't like it. And then I dollar cost average in the other way and get out of it. So,
All right. You just touched on it there a couple minutes ago, but EOS. So that's one I like. You already mentioned it. I can't see anything happening on it in real time. I don't see anything much in the pipeline. Their wallet, I tried to use it, I don't know, a year ago. I had some extremely complicated, just not user friendly. I'm just not a fan, but what do you think?
It's done. Forget it. It's over. Because their whole thing was, we're going to launch, which is going to be so much easier, and all of this stuff is going to be built quickly. And how long has it been? Year, two? I don't know. There's nothing on it. And those who tried have left or failed, and I even talked to, what's his name? With the
Larimer?
No.
Oh.
The king, Brock Pierce. Okay. I talked to his wife actually at an event, and she was trying to build a project on it. And I was surprised, and I thought she was just like, oh my God, and this doesn't work. And I'm thinking forking, and just, I don't, even she's not working on it, right? I mean, and Larimer, whatever happened to Voice? Did they even launch it?
They did. I signed up for the trial. I don't even know if it's actually out of beta, but I got the I guess the early sign up, and but nothing has happened with it.
They bought that domain Voice, which is I learned by buying sextoy.com. You actually don't want common words because you can't trademark it, you can't brand it because you don't own shit. So Voice is actually a shitty domain, and they paid a ton of money for it. It's a horrible design. Disaster.
All right, what's up next? Right up the line here, and of course BNB. I know you're a CZ fan. You like, the leaders. You often repeat that in your videos, and CZ's kind of like he's got vision, man, and I'll give him that. And with all the products and everything that's on BNB, and the burning of tokens, and just trying to, he's got so much going on, but I think he can handle it mentally. I don't think he can. He's going to take on more than he's capable of. But to me, it seems like he wants to take over the world of crypto, and that's his goal. That's his vision. That's what he wants to do. I know you've been a fan in the past. I don't think I've seen a latest take from you on it, so I'd be curious as to what that is.
Well, yeah, I think CZ is a great operator at building things, moving fast. I saw this one statistic. They launched more features in 1 quarter than all of the other exchanges combined in the entire year. It was ridiculous. So they're really good at building exchanges, centralized exchanges. He, has plans to create a decentralized one. He's sort of not proven that he will move to decentralized. He also allows a lot of shit coins on his system more than others. So that worries me, but he is the reason I have a little BNB and some hope is, again, with my 5-year thing. Do I think Binance is going to be doing a lot more 5 years from now than they are now? Yes. So then the next question is, does that accrue to the token? Right now, yeah, a little bit, because it's sort of they're trying to create uses for it. You get some discounts if you trade on their exchange and you use it. There's no amazing case for the token other than I believe CZ really believes in it, and he likes his token more than he even likes equity. And I think at some point it grows to a certain size and he needs to do something. And it's sort of like, if you're investing in a company, it's almost like you're at odds. Do you own equity or do you own the token? And for companies that have both, there's sort of like in a sense, a battle, because where do you let the value accrue to? Which holders? And in the long run, I actually think tokens could win. And with someone like CZ, I think he figures out a way. He wants it to go to a token. I think he wants it to be decentralized. So if he's successful, it could be big. So I think it's worth holding a little and see where we are in 5 years. But it's possible that, like, whatever, he gets attacked by central authorities and they keep handcuffing him and he has no way to apply value to the token and it sort of doesn't go anywhere. But that is, I really believe the exchange keeps growing. It's like one of the biggest and the best, and he's awesome. So how does that not grow? So I like the BNB token, but there's a lot of caveats there, and I would keep watching it, because if CZ has to make that token go up. In other words, he has to not only grow big exchanges, he has to have a plan that says, we're going to make this token be more valuable. And if he doesn't push that, I don't know that it would happen.
Alrighty, another one, I touched on it very briefly in the beginning, is Litecoin, kind of like a Bitcoin light. Go figure. Charlie Lee, I guess, aimed to make the thinking of it as the silver to Bitcoin's gold until whenever it was, late 2017 or early 2018, when he dumped on everybody's head, and then pretty much hasn't come back since. Right. And it's, when he did that, I was like, okay, well, that's a great move if you plan to see this through. And at the time that he got rid of it, he was like, well, you know what? All cryptos, we have these cycles, and a lot of times they'll go down 85, 90%. And he's like, I can't see it going much higher right now. And he got out, and it went down 90%. But did he get back in? No. And do I think he'll get back in? I doubt it. But what's your take on the whole Litecoin story there?
When he came out with it, it was a legitimate idea. It was like a decent token that you could, use as a sort of a faster, cheaper alternative than Bitcoin. There was a use case for it when the volume was getting crazy in 2017, which was the use case he came up with, that it's this second layer. People are like, I can't move my Bitcoin, so I'll go into Litecoin, move to the other exchange, and then get back into my Bitcoin. And that was great. But at the end of 2017, Charlie Lee went on a bunch of TV shows for a week. And at the end of that, he sold it all. And since then, it's been an abandoned project. Nobody's working on it. It's not doing anything. It's abandoned for 3 years. The only people interested in it are market manipulators like it, because, it's in a lot of exchanges, and occasionally they run it up and the idiots jump in and they sell on them. But it's not a real project anymore that it really exists. No one's even pretending that anyone's working on it.
And speaking of projects that aren't real, BSV, Bitcoin Fake Toshi's Vision, any other thoughts on that other than, we're not fans, obviously?
Proven, scammer. Like when he brought some lawsuit against, what's his name, McCormick, for like criticizing him on Twitter. It was some crazy thing, and like the judge destroyed Craig Wright, and Craig Wright's claim about being Satoshi Nakamoto was stupid from the beginning, but a number of people believed. But at this point, like, I think there was something with court, and he had to show the key in order to win the case. And, he didn't show the key. Like, if you had the keys to Satoshi's, if you were him, you could probably win your case. He's just a scammer and a liar. Like, he's crazy. He's out of his mind. And it's just a stupid centralized coin. But it's a horrible project. But because it's run by a known fraudster, and like, he's really like an evil character. Like, a lot of people who are like Roger Ver and, BCH, he's like, I just think he's like, he has bad ideas, but he's not an evil guy. Like, he just makes the wrong decisions, right? And a lot of tokens fail. It's like Charles Hopkinson. I make fun of ADA. He's not a bad guy. He's not trying to steal from people. He really believes that he's building the perfect thing, and it's not going to work. Most restaurants fail not because they're scams, but because the food sucks, right? But Craig Wright is an actual evil character. Like, he's actually a bad human, you know? So that is why I put that in and I'd call it the ultimate shit coin. You know, I wouldn't put my enemy's money into that.
Yeah. And I believe it was confirmed that the 50 or 40 coins that moved from that early Bitcoin block earlier this week that caused the market frenzy, those were not fake Toshis either. So
yeah, he probably doesn't own any. I once saw him on this thing and they're like, how are you going to pay for all that? And he goes, look at this. And he shows some expensive watch on his hand. I'm like, and this was about all these legal battles. I'm like, do you know what it costs to have a real legal battle? Like, you better have a lot of those nice watches. He's a real screwball.
Mentioned it. It's kind of in the same boat. Bitcoin Cash, another, version of Bitcoin. And Roger Ver, again, not a fan. If one's going to make it, it's going to be, the original at this point, as far as I'm concerned. It's, so many people, funds, that's where the money goes. I get the idea of, Bitcoin, that's money, but, there's so much else that's being built right now. And you did mention wrapping, which we can get to in a little bit, but, thoughts on BCH?
Well, so Roger Ver, I almost like him in a way, in that, because he's just, I feel bad for him. He's just not the smartest. It's weird. He's obviously smart. He got into Bitcoin early. He's made a lot of money. He's very successful. God bless. But, if you're talking about at the top of the game, he's just like, he wants Bitcoin to be fast. But if you understand how Bitcoin works, like, being slow is why it works, and you can't just make it fast. And then they're like, oh, we're going to have instant transactions. Well, how do you do that? Well, zero confirmation. In other words, send your money, you just hope it's good, like, before you get a confirmation. Like, that was like their system. Like, it's stupid, right? Now, he's right in thinking, we really want there to be a crypto that we could spend really quickly for free. Yeah, so that's coming. It's kind of already here on Ethereum, on second layer applications. There's this, if you've heard of optimistic rollup or ZK rollups, it's this thing. Where you can do, thousands of transactions a second for free and with some privacy on this second layer solution. And that's awesome. And we need that. You just can't do that on the first layer you can't do that with Ethereum on Ethereum. Ethereum can't be instant and free, right, to trade, but you can have other things that are. And Bitcoin itself, on the base layer, there's thoughts that it could be instant free with privacy on Lightning Network. Now, Lightning Network, where is it? But that was the idea. But to think that you're going to have the base layer be instant and free is just wrong, and pretty obviously wrong, So he's just, and then I don't even know what goes on. And then he keeps changing his mind and he's all over the place. He's quite a character, but, I wouldn't buy that token.
No, never have, never will, most likely. Never say never, I guess. But we touched on USDT with all the stablecoin conversation earlier, so we can probably move past that one unless you have anything else to say on that one. The XRP Army, I know, another favorite of yours. It's fast. That's about all I can say that's good about it. Anything else?
Yeah, XRP, nobody's using it. It's not. Like I said with Stellar, remember Jed McCaleb created XRP, then he went and created Stellar. And Stellar is basically a much better version of XRP. So if you like one of those, I would go with Stellar, but I don't even see a case for buying Stellar. XRP, not only is no one using it, I don't see how this thing goes viral. Like, we have hope with Stellar and this app that they're building, and IBM's trying to do something. And by the way, someone commented about IBM. It's like, they're just so slow moving, but that could be something. But anyways, with Ripple, I think there's nothing going on. Like, there's no trades. I think I saw some, like 99% of their order book is like, no, I don't remember the statistic. It's all, most trades have no value or something. People are trading zero balance or something. I don't know. I'm not sure, but it's just, nothing's going on. And what I really don't like is the management owns most of the tokens, and they have openly admitted they're funding their business by selling these tokens. So they have no sales, they have no business, they have a token, and they sell this very expensive token to a bunch of dummies every quarter and pay themselves millions and millions of dollars. And as far as the XRP army, I mean, there must at least used to be. They might have gotten rid of it now. They're in the middle of a lawsuit, but I'm pretty sure they were paying people or companies to pay people to go out and post stupid shit. Now, people would say these are bots, and maybe there was a miscommunication. I was like, they're not bots; they're actually real people. Like, these people really are that stupid. But maybe those people were being paid somehow. But there's people. It used to be, I could post a video about how to work out and what to eat, before you work out, and the first comment would be buy XRP. Just like every video. Buy XRP. That's all they would write. Buy XRP. I'm like, and then I would comment back. I'd be like, that token sucks. And why are you posting that? And then they'd come back and they'd have a debate with me. Like these are real people who those people didn't even have an argument. They just buy XRP. So
they also toss out these random price targets of like $300, $500. I'm like, do you realize how many trillions, plural, like multiple trillions that would even be? Like, the math doesn't even make sense.
And the thing is, so with these companies like, EOS, they raised like $4 billion for their building a piece of shit. And now XRP, how much they've made and how much they're making. And then you have these lawsuits. When they have these lawyers, they're very good lawyers, and you can't catch them. So XRP is in this lawsuit about whether they're a security. 5 years from now, a decision will come down, and either it's going to be it wasn't a security, or they're going to say it was a security, and then they get a slap on the wrist, and everybody already took their money and left years ago. It's just, I don't like it at all. Wouldn't buy it.
Nope. All right. Time for your favorite, I know, and one that I'm most bullish on near term, and that's Ethereum. It's got so much going on with it right now. Obviously 2.0 is coming up, whether it makes it before or after Shelley, which I would guess before. But there's so many, so much to talk about here. So I'll just let you start with 2.0. Where do you think that takes us? Proof of stake, I think, is something that a lot of investors are looking for. One of the things, I guess, to lead into that is the staking rewards, and the more Ethereum that is staked, I guess, the less rewards. So how fast do you think that staking pool will fill up, in a sense? And obviously the more that are in that pool, the reward comes down. But I mean, if you look at it, not a lot of people stake in the beginning. I mean, it's a very healthy reward, that I would assume would decrease over time. So just your thoughts starting with that.
Yes. So first of all, staking has come up, and other tokens have staking, and 0x had their staking to get dividends. And like, staking is not just like this thing. Oh, I like staking or I don't. It's, 0x tries to improve liquidity and reward token holders, and they using staking for that. Ethereum created a new security model, which includes staking. And staking really is just a word for locking up your tokens as collateral in order to, well, I guess with 0x, you lock up your tokens to provide proof of liquidity. In an Ethereum security model, you'll lock up your tokens to be your stake in the system, instead of proof of work and doing math problems to prove you have a stake in the system. You are locking up your tokens that you could lose if you try to screw over the system. So anyways, it's, with these staking things, it's not like I like staking or I don't like staking. It's what is going on and how is staking part of that bigger picture. For me, the light bulb moment and what made me finally get out of Bitcoin and put more into Ethereum was understanding what the security model for Ethereum 2.0 will make is much better than Bitcoin's security model, if you consider it a real security model, and Ethereum's issuance rate, new tokens printed, right? Everyone's excited because Bitcoin, the halvening, Bitcoin's issuance went to 1.8% now a year, new tokens being added, and Ethereum's is higher. Within this, my 5-year horizon, Ethereum's issuance rate will be lower than Bitcoin's, but it's also based on a real security model, you know, as opposed to Bitcoin is just like, well, we're going to keep giving out less tokens to the miners who provide the security. Well, how are they going to make money? Well, transactions. Well, how do you know there'll be enough in transactions? I don't know. Hope so. I mean, maybe, but it's not. That's not a deeply researched, tested with math proofs security model. That's just a hope. And maybe it works. And, you know, I don't think it's anywhere near being a problem. But I think one of the biggest worries about Ethereum is, what is the model? And, oh, they're just going to print a lot of tokens. So Ethereum's model is going to be, they're going to print tokens. And you ask me what it probably ends up being like they pay like 3 to 5%, you know, a year, and whatever. That's, you know, it is what it is. But so they're printing 3 to 5%. But the other thing that will happen is every transaction that pays gas in Ethereum, every transaction has to pay gas in Ethereum, and that Ethereum will get burned. So you have this balance between issuing new tokens to provide security and burning tokens based on the number of transactions. And you can also understand that the level of security should be in line with the value of all the transactions. So if the value of transactions goes up, you burn more, which basically increases your the value of the security. Do you understand that? I'm not good at explaining it. It's in my head, but
I kind of get what you're going at. It's I guess, simplifying it for, you know, the audience who may see this video. I'm trying to think of a way to make that clear. But
so if there's a lot of transactions, how do I say that? The point is, there's sort of two forces: printing to provide security and burning as the usage, and the two should balance out. I like all of these systems seem to work best when you have this, you know, reflexive system. Bitcoin mining does this, right? The hash rate goes up, which makes it harder, more expensive to mine, and you get the token based on the token price. If the token price goes down, then you have less miners, but that makes the hash rate go down. So it all evens out. You don't get this spiral down or spiral up that whenever the hash rate starts falling, you see articles about, oh my God, there's a mining spiral down. That won't happen because it adjusts. And, you know, Ethereum system will have that as well. So, and the other thing is for usage with Ethereum today, we don't need Ethereum 2.0 for Ethereum to have value. Any metric, like what metric other than market cap, what metric do you want to measure? And Ethereum is number one. I guess actually people are paying more in fees on Bitcoin too. But the growth of fees on Ethereum is high. I mean, but every statistic, and there's so much, everything that's happening. The other thing for me, I always get back to decentralization. And when you think about Bitcoin, so Bitcoin itself is decentralized, and theoretically I could take my Bitcoin and send it directly to you. That's great. But most of Bitcoin is on centralized exchanges. And so in order to do anything, and if I wanted to send, I guess, I mean, if you want, the only thing you can do is send it to one person. And even that, a lot of happens through centralized exchanges. So if someone wanted to attack Bitcoin and literally coordinated to close all these exchanges, I'm not saying that's going to happen. But Ethereum, on the other hand, I can go to many different exchanges with good volume and trade and get privacy and play games and do all these things without touching the legacy world. In Bitcoin, you can't do anything without touching the legacy financial system, other than send it to somebody else who's sophisticated enough to use a user-unfriendly wallet. You know, so you know, Ethereum, the use cases are there and they're growing. And as far as market potential, you know, there's so many options, but derivatives is a quadrillion-dollar market. And if you think of derivatives are just usually things collateral backing some sort of a price tracking thing, right? And on Ethereum, you're going to have collateral that anyone can check 24/7, that can be automatically programmed to liquidate if this price gets to something else. It's all public. Nobody owns it. There's no custody issue. Like, it's just better than, or you can go to JP Morgan to do your derivative. And it's a bit of a black box. But JP Morgan knows this, and they're moving quickly. Well, I don't know, quickly, but they are working on integrating with Ethereum. And even China's got their own blockchain system, and their internal system will be their own system. But for international trade, it looks like they're going to connect to Ethereum. Ethereum is going to be the platform that will eat all finance. Now, does that happen does the price go up in 6 months from now? And when I say it eats all of finance, okay, in 100 years, maybe, like when I think of like moving to the cloud, right? I remember in 95, and I was like, someday you don't have to have your computer, all the stuff on your computer on your desk. These programs can be out in, we didn't even call it the cloud. I don't know what I called it, but these programs will be elsewhere and you'll tap in. And this was in 95. And now here we are in 2009. Everyone's like, yeah, everything's on the cloud. It's actually only like 15% of computer activity is on the cloud now. It's still super early. So when we talk about all of finance moving to Ethereum, you got to take a long time frame. But right now, the growth is tremendous. I feel totally fine with it being more valuable 5 years from now. I don't need it to eat the entire quadrillion derivative market in 5 years for the price of Ethereum to go up.
All right. So I guess along those lines, aside from Bitcoin, I think you kind of answered it there. But I guess in terms of the Ethereum competitors, you see, Ethereum plus maybe a Tezos and or Cardano being relevant in 5 to 10 years, or we're just going to have Ethereum because, like you were saying, it just kind of ate them all?
Well, I think if somebody's going to become relevant in their niche, we'll see that happening. And a lot of times, like Bitcoin, I think its relevance will be that it becomes available on Ethereum. And then you've got the Bitcoin collateral backing DeFi on Ethereum, and they both go up for that. If something starts happening on Tezos, like, I don't know, they're probably going to connect to Ethereum. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's one or the other. The question is whether any other platforms other than Ethereum can get some market share. I don't think that hurts Ethereum at this point. I think it would just makes the market bigger. I'm not against it. And they probably, if they really are valuable, they'll want to connect. Like the China blockchain, I think is going to have a lot of value, within China. But they're going to increase their value by connecting to Ethereum. I don't think the Chinese blockchain is a competitor to Ethereum. I don't think United States citizens are going to want to put all their money on the Chinese blockchain. I don't think they'll be allowed to. So, it's going to be compatible. So, but I love talking about, oh, this thing sucks and there's nothing happening there. But I don't care. I'm not, if Tezos, all of a sudden something launched, oh, I didn't know that was launching. And there's all this activity and Tezos is 1,000 trades a minute now on this security. I was like, wow, I didn't see that coming. Wow, Tezos is great. Maybe I'll buy it. I changed my mind. I don't care. But today, there's nothing happening. It's possible. My vision now, though, is Ethereum is so killing it and so far ahead of everybody that I see it as this giant. It's like Ethereum is the sun. And it's like, well, will there be any other large masses? It's like, yeah, we got Earth and we got Venus and we got Jupiter's pretty big. But if you put it next to the sun, it's nothing. Do you think Jupiter will become bigger than the sun? No, maybe if it gets that big, it'll start going towards the sun and smash into it, and then the whole thing's bigger. It merges. But there'll be other things. But at this point, Ethereum appears to be the sun.
And I think you touched on it just a couple minutes ago and earlier in the conversation regarding wrapped Bitcoin. You look at DeFi Pulse, wrapped Bitcoin locked on Ethereum is far more double that of the Lightning Network. I mean, where do you see the future of wrapped BTC?
Well, I'm so for the dream, and this is what my dream is with this Ren token. They seem to be okay. The idea is that anybody, I have Bitcoin, I can just go to some website and put in, type in, this address or what, you do a couple steps and it gives you a thing, and you now have Bitcoin as an ERC20 token. And I did that without permission, without an account, and it's 100% safe and locked. And at any point, and even if I trade with that token with you, you could go back to the Ren system and take that Ethereum Bitcoin and turn it into a real Bitcoin, and you get it. And that whole system is trustless. I believe that will unleash a lot of people. And you don't need, so Bitcoin's market cap is 100 billion plus, right? I don't even know what it is today, but I'm curious. I should know that, right? Let's see, Bitcoin, 168 billion.
Yep.
So if 10% of Bitcoin, if 1% of Bitcoin decides to go on Ethereum, that's 1.6 billion being added to Ethereum, which Ethereum's only 22 billion, but that's going to be people not just going, it's not just adding market cap. These are people who are going to want to, they're doing it because they want to do something. They're going to put it into DeFi. They want to do transaction. I don't know what the hell they want it, but they're going to move it there because they want to use those features. So that would be $1.6 billion worth of usage coming to Ethereum. And that's 1%. And there's so many people with so much money locked up on a Bitcoin, and you can't do anything with it. You can't earn any interest. You can't do anything. So I think it gets more than 1% if we actually have a trusted program that works. Now, there's been this one TBTC, which I'm sort of happy. Well, I'd like things to work, but TBTC, I've been sort of, I feel like I've been proven right a little bit on this one, because so everybody loves TBTC. Coinbase invested it. All the smart people are in it. And you hear about it every 10 minutes, how great it is and bringing Bitcoin to Ethereum. So I had researched it. And I'm just like, I don't get how it works. Like, I literally listened a bunch of times. I kind of understand it. And it doesn't seem that safe. It's not a no-brainer by any means. But like anything, I'm like, great, it'll launch. And if it's getting a lot of adoption, and then I see, and then, okay, then I'll believe. But it was very confusing, and it bothers me that Ren, which is not easy to understand, I could try to explain it if you want, but it is understandable, like, to me, and it seems just like a way better model than TBTC. Maybe it's not, maybe I'm wrong, but why is nobody talking about Ren and everybody's talking about TBTC? So TBTC launches, and the second day they had to take it offline. It didn't work, and it's so confusing, and it's not working. And now they're back. They gotta, maybe it'll relaunch, maybe it'll be successful. But so Ren, I feel more confident about. But I think this is a super bullish scenario for Bitcoin and Ethereum. But if no program actually works the way I said it needs to, like trustlessly, anybody can go and quickly convert and get your Bitcoin, ERC20'd. If no program actually allows that, then this boom doesn't happen. You can there's wrapped WBTC, but it's a custodian thing. You give your tokens to this custodian, and they hold it, and you trust them, and they're actually trustable, and Kyber's big in it, and it's probably fine. But for someone like me, who's all about decentralization, I don't like the WBTC. I like the Ren, because that idea, if it works, is totally decentralized. So I'm hoping, if Ren just goes viral, it's so great for Ethereum and Bitcoin. And then I'm also early in Ren. I will be on the top. See that mountain? I'd be on the top of that thing. So, but if Ren doesn't work also, then it's like, well, what else is launching? I know there's other ones, but I'm not sure. So we'll see. But I got a feeling someone's going to figure it out this year.
Yeah, Crypto Elf, makes a call for the future regarding Bitcoin on Tezos, which I know they now offer as well. All these platforms will work together in the future. Bigger returns will be in the 2 billion market cap coins. ETH might do a 20x, but Tezos and Chainlink will do a 50.
Price predictions are so like,
yeah.
And Tezos,
I'd be fine with all those, by the way, because I own Tezos and some Link. So
I'm sure that Bitcoin on a Tezos is not some decentralized thing. It's like you give your Bitcoin to someone and then they lock it up and promise you they're going to give it back to you if you want it. And then they give you a token on Tezos that represents that one, which again, it might be fine. They're doing that on Stellar as well, but that's not the same. What I'm looking for in Ethereum is that at any moment, I can go and take my Bitcoin on Ethereum and convert it to real Bitcoin. And I know that's going to work, and I don't have to worry about custody, and I don't have to worry about liquidity or solvency. It's just math. That's what I want. And I don't think that exists on Tezos.
Yeah. So this one kind of, I think I might know the answer to it, but I figured I'd get your take on it. And it's a touchy subject for some maximalists, but why do you believe that certain Bitcoin maximalists label Ethereum as a scam when there's so much, as we've discussed and you've been laying out, there's so much being built on Ethereum? Why do these guys just continually call it a scam with no backing whatsoever? Is it just a defense mechanism? Is that it's like, oh, well, I have Bitcoin, your coin can't be better than mine, so I'm just going to label it a scam and not offer any valid reasoning why? It's more of an annoyance question, but I figured I'd run it by you.
A weird thing in crypto land that is that
I think you may have tweeted about it recently.
I just did a tweet.
Yeah.
Dave Levine, the #0com, by the way, is my Twitter. Why is everything in crypto like a scam? That isn't like, what happened to, I wish I could, can I find my tweet? I feel like I don't even know how to say it. I think that's why I tweeted, because I felt like I finally know how to say this and figured out how to say it in one sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Why is every doomed crypto project called a scam or a Ponzi? Can we just admit that there are hardworking people with fair intentions who simply fail, and sometimes fail miserably? So, if you think Ethereum is not going to work, okay, whatever, Ethereum, it's hard for me to even say maybe, but any of these other, like Kyber, you think it's going to completely fail? You might be right. Might go to zero and the whole thing becomes obsolete in a year. It could happen. Even I believe that. But it's not because Louis, whatever his name is, who runs Kyber, not because he's a scammer. It's just, he fucked up, or he got in the wrong market, or something went wrong. And Ethereum 2.0, if it doesn't launch, it's not a scam. It's that all these researchers and all these people made a mistake. They missed something, and it is experimental. I'm more concerned that it takes 5 years instead of 2 years, instead of it just completely failing. But again, it's not a scam. So Bitcoiners, I think, why don't we do this when a restaurant fails? Why don't we say it was a scam? I'm not sure. I think maybe because in 2017 there were so many scams online that it's sort of easier. Maybe it's easier to say it's a scam than to actually dig into the details and explain why it will fail, right? Maybe, that's another thing. But I don't know why everybody says that, but it's sort of annoying. Like all these tokens I talk about that I hate, other than BSV, I don't think they're a scam. It's just, I don't think it's going to work. ICX, Cardano, like I said, Cardano, I think he really believes the shit. ICX, they probably have the guy who invented it really has an idea about interoperability, and he's doing the best he can. Just so happens, I don't know, they haven't been able to launch anything yet. Not a scam. I think EOS, but even EOS, right? Now, I think they just raised a bunch of money saying we're going to do all these magical things, and it was kind of stupid from my point of view before they even launched. But were they scamming, or did they really believe all their own bullshit? They probably actually believed it, and they weren't thinking that deeply. And maybe some of them were scammers. I don't know. But, I tend to not jump to the scam claim before
Well, good. Good on you. I agree. So I know, obviously, you're, the ultimate ETH bull. That brings us to the top via market cap or in market cap. What do you still like about Bitcoin, and say, can you see it as a store of value, gold replacement moving forward?
I think that's all Bitcoin has, is this idea that it's, you can hold your own money and it can't be diluted. And it's got a low issuance rate. And it is decentralized in many ways. So I don't think it goes away. And for most people, it's the gateway drug. And if institutions are coming, it appears maybe they are now finally. And since COVID, definitely, since the Fed went crazy printing, people are definitely more into crypto than before that event. So maybe people do start, this John Tudor Jones everyone's talking about, he bought some, I can see why he would buy Bitcoin. He's sort of these big investors who want to do the big trends. He's not gonna.
Paul Tudor Jones, yeah. And he was in gold back in the day. So him moving to the digital version is rather significant, I think.
Right. So for a guy like him, he wouldn't go to Ethereum, at least not first, right? Now, later he may, whatever. But, so there's a case for Bitcoin going up. I just think these things either are all going to go up or they're all going to go down. They kind of go together. But if you pick the right one, you'll go up more. And if you pick the wrong one and they all go down together and there's a real disaster and you have to wait 2 years, the one that, would have gone up but underperformed, if you go down and you have to wait, like I keep saying, well, what if Kyber becomes irrelevant in a year? Well, if the price goes to 5 cents and I'm like, I'm going to wait for 5 years, but after a year, it becomes totally irrelevant and the price is way down, now I can't get out. So you really, even though everything goes up together, everything goes down together, you still want to be in the good ones for those reasons. And so to me, Bitcoin is not as good as other ones. It's good enough to hold some, but it's not my favorite by far. And I worry, 5 years is a long time in crypto land. If, the world, the COVID and everything, there's major deflation and everything, Bitcoin goes to 2000, is going to sit there for 2 years. By the end of those 2 years, the thing may be irrelevant and then you never get out. So whereas Ethereum, if that happens and Ethereum sits at $50 for 2 years, at the end of those 2 years, there's going to be so much more activity, I believe, that it still goes to all new highs. So, but I think for those, if somebody just wants to have some money in crypto and they just buy Bitcoin, for now, that's okay. Because I think worst case is that it underperforms. Like it's overperformed, obviously, for 10 years. And, in this bull run, it's gained in value, since 2018 or 2019, it's overperformed. I think now it's just like everybody's overweight Bitcoin because that's all anybody really owns. And even there's a lot of people who are like, oh yeah, I agree. Bitcoin, Ethereum's way better. Really? What do you own? Oh, well, I'm still in all Bitcoin, but I got a little Ethereum. Like they haven't, I don't think people have made that move yet. And then I believe there's a lot of Bitcoiners who are not crazy, moronic maximalists. And they kind of, life has been easy holding Bitcoin, right? It just keeps going up and it's always the best. And even if something's competing, there's that, and, people might be a little lazy, I think, but there are a lot of smart people that they'll sort of eventually dig in and see, wow, there's a lot going on in Ethereum. And it too is a store of value that can't be taken. And it is a form of digital gold, but it also can pay interest and it also can be used like cash. And it has all these other things. You know what? I love my Bitcoin, but maybe I won't be 100% Bitcoin. Maybe I'll do 25% of it. Like that, those are huge numbers. And I believe Ethereum, especially, when I made my video about Bitcoin capitulation, I think, Ethereum was at like 0.2 compared to Ethereum, 0.2 to Ethereum, like 20% of its market cap, or when you look at the price in Bitcoin, right? It was at a high of 0.02. It was at 0.07 at some point. That might have been the high. And it's just, so anyways, Ethereum is way underperformed Bitcoin, but the metrics, I think all of the statistics that I look at for success on Ethereum are way better. So I think if nothing else, it just rebounds back to a higher, in comparison to Bitcoin, it should be a lot higher. Even if the whole market stays flat, I think Ethereum would gain on Bitcoin. And also the other thing is community. This Bitcoin, I'm sure there's some great, developers and people working on it. I don't mean to shame the whole community, but just, the discourse and the conversations, and it's just and Bitcoin, I used to follow a lot more Bitcoiners. Every post is just about price and charts. It's never about, and it's like the happening and I know 4 years ago, it's not news. Who cares?
The whole Zoom event with all the maximalists. I mean, it was kind of like a fun but not kind of thing, because it was kind of cool to be around for the moment of the happening. I just happened to be working at the time.
It's exciting.
It was like New Year's Eve on Zoom or something, but it was just, I would hate to guess at the percentage of those who would be open to actually owning Ethereum or own Ethereum. It was probably, say, 10% or something like that. And just, I could see, I'm very familiar with a lot of the YouTubers out there, and I was just like, nope, maximalist. And it's, you never hear them talk about Ethereum when everything's being built on it right now. Well, so much that's relevant anyway.
Yeah, and the community. So I stopped following a lot of these people because they're never talking about anything interesting. It's just charts and prices, which is, sort of hocus pocus. Yeah, what was I going to say? You said something else there. I lost my thought there.
Well, the happening or the Zoom celebration or
the community. I don't know. I just think a lot of those people, I know, Charlie Munger comment that I love, which is a year in which I didn't get rid of one of my best ideas is a wasted year. And a lot of people, when I first heard that, I was like, what does that mean? Why would you get rid of your best idea? So when I bought Bitcoin in 2015, at $300, that was my best idea, right? That was a great idea. And when it was going up, I'm like, this is awesome. I am so smart. I bought Bitcoin. I'm holding this thing. I held it through tough times. I'm holding, and it's going up. This thing was my best investment. You can call that one of my best ideas. And then so when you've had that for a long time, it's hard to let it go because the facts have changed. Well, it was my best idea because it was so inexpensive. It was before anybody knew. It was early. Now it's a different world. And then one day I thought about it. If I was just coming into this fresh, from scratch, would I make my biggest position Bitcoin today? No. Why would I, if I was coming in fresh, So then I was like, oh, but I've made so much, I'm gonna make more. And I was like, time to let go of one of my best ideas, and it's a hard thing to do. And you also have to sort of get in some framework. You almost have to be like now I'm starting to recognize these, something I've loved for a long time, and just be like, okay, I don't love it anymore. And let's accept that and make it reflected in my portfolio. But I think a lot of Bitcoiners are going to have that moment. I think it's going to be, just my theories on how the world works. I spent a lot of time thinking. I remember when I was in college, when the wall, the Eastern Europe, the wall in Berlin, it's like, okay, I understand why communist fell and was replaced by democracy. That's obvious because one was decentralized, the other wasn't. Okay. But why do they all fall at the same time? Countries unrelated to each other, not next to each other, they all fell at the same time. And then I remember with the churches and then going after the priests. Okay, I understand why they are saying it's not good to have sex with boys, young boys. But why are they all saying it at the same time? And I just like these things, and or in other words, priests are getting in trouble from different churches and different places around the world. Why didn't they get in trouble as it came up over the years? Why now are they all getting it? And I realized for a lot of things, it's just an idea. We have a philosophy, we have an idea, and that when that idea changes, and then people start to see it, and someone tweets it very simply and fundamentally, then all of a sudden everybody changes their idea at the same time. And I think with Bitcoin, there'll be a couple smart people. First of all, it might just be at the point it's obvious. It's like their issuance rate is lower. And Bitcoin's having some problem. And then someone's like, you know what? Ethereum actually looks better. And they're a smart person. And someone else says, yeah, I think you're right. And then all of a sudden, the whole cards all fall at the same time. I think Bitcoin is ripe for a bit of at some point, and this might not happen for 3 years, that a lot of these big holders who've been right for so long decide to diversify into Ethereum.
I'm still a fan of the store of value aspect, and I think with this mystical institutional money, maybe over the next 5 years, it could be a lot higher on the store of value front. But actually, it's as store of value, same store of value story as Bitcoin. I understand the issuance is a little higher now, but you have more uses for it, and you can lock it up. So if you put it all together, the issuance rate, and even the issuance rate in both of them, what's more important is whether new people come in or existing people leave, is a much bigger number than issuance rate at this point anyway. So, All right, a couple miscellaneous topics here before we wrap up. This one I'm just kicking myself for. Unibright. It's been on fire this year, really. It's referred to as, say, the WordPress of WordPress for blockchain, connects Ethereum network to actual businesses. Do you have a take on that one?
First of all, I didn't know about it. I think I looked it up because you had a link here. First of all, I'm very skeptical. Anything which someday, yes, but as soon as you try to connect the physical world or the legacy financial world to the crypto world, maintaining that bridge is extremely difficult, and it's certainly in a decentralized way is sort of impossible right now. So I tend to just anything that claims that they're gonna, it's like supply chain and health records and all this stuff in the blockchain. Yeah, I get the long-term story, maybe in 10 years. When I started on the web, I remember when people said, when you go, and I had a website selling products, people were like, well, someday when you get to the website, they're going to know who you are, what you like, and they're going to show you what you want. I was like, oh, that's never going to happen, right? Well, it did happen 20 years from the point where I said, oh, never. It's not never. It was 20 years, or maybe 50, whatever the number was. But as far as these links between the real world and crypto, it'll happen. It's just not happening today or this year. Even in my 5-year horizon, I don't see it. So Unibright, how are they connecting to WordPress? What is that?
No, they're not connecting to WordPress. They're referred to as a WordPress for blockchain. So basically, they make how I work with websites and whatnot, and how WordPress is so easily understandable and buildable upon for users and developers. They're taking that same approach to blockchain with trying to connect Ethereum to actual businesses to make it much easier. So that's
sending Ethereum. I mean, well, okay. Oh, right. That's what I saw that, and I was connecting businesses to use the Ethereum blockchain. Check out Ernst & Young, and they just had the keynote speech at the beginning of Ernst & Young's presentation. Ernst & Young, huge consulting company, working on bringing Fortune 500 companies to Ethereum. This is huge. They are super smart with Ethereum. The opening speech, they had a 3-day online seminar thing, and the opening remarks, I was super impressed. Like, they are really high level Ethereum users who are focused on, bringing privacy and all these functions that businesses really can use and will save them a ton of costs, and bringing real companies to Ethereum. So if you think that's cool, I like Ernst & Young. I don't know how you invest in it, but them and Consensus, with SYS at the end. Consensus is another company that focuses on that. Now, so Unibright, I don't know. So that's the big companies coming to Ethereum. Are they going to help little companies? I would want to see what specific feature are they bringing to a company, and is that getting adoption? Is there?
We'll put that in the drawer.
I assume Unibright, my guess, without knowing anything, and it's like gone up a lot in a month, is they have big dreams of helping companies in some way, but it hasn't launched yet, and they have 0 customers. Now, if it has launched and they are signing up customers, and you can actually see something that's launched, I would, and it's growing, then I would look further. And then, does that mean the token's going to be good? Maybe you could start a company and we go and we charge you lots of money to make you more efficient, like IBM's doing. They're trying to do that. Go to companies, they charge them money to get the supply chain on blockchain. IBM might make a lot of money. It doesn't mean there's any token that's going to make any money. But even the IBM bringing companies, a lot of that stuff. Real world things being brought, supply chain and health records and all this on blockchain is going really slow, and I'm not optimistic. But bringing privacy and your financial, or what Ernst & Young was explaining, if I can explain this, which I was like, oh, I get it. So one of the reasons we have huge companies is they were able to get these efficiencies on transactions on worldwide activity. Because it's one company, they can get supply from this country and move it to this factory and build it here. And they don't have to go through, it's like almost the accounting or something. It's a big feature benefit of giant corporations because it's all under one financial system. By building these tools for financial systems, you could have, an extreme example would be Boeing, right? How many things does Boeing do to put that plane together as one company? Well, imagine if it actually was 1,000 different companies, but they were able to coordinate because all of the information, be it inventory and money. Well, see, now inventory I'm connecting to real life. I don't listen to the keynote at the beginning of Ernst & Young. Interesting, and it's not my field. Like I don't know. That's Fortune 500 companies. There's probably no investment there for me. So I listened once, but if I really wanted to know what's going on, I would listen to that 3 times.
All right.
And by the way, for anyone who studies this stuff, I always tell them, with crypto, everything in crypto, if you want to understand it, you read it once because you get an idea. And you read it again, you kind of get it. Then you read it a 3rd time and you understand, and then you watch it for a year and you use it, and then you're a beginner.
Then you earn the right to be a beginner.
Yes, then you actually know a teeny bit. But a lot of people get discouraged because they read it and I'm like, I don't understand one word. When I, MakerDAO, first time I read it, I was like, okay, I don't.
General idea is cool, but then you have to peel back all the layers.
I didn't even understand the general idea, to be honest. Yeah. I don't know what the hell this is. I was like, well, we'll see, see what happens. So then there was a whole year, tons of adoption, lots of use. And the one risk I understand, it doesn't hold the peg. If it doesn't hold the peg, which could happen in a crash. Well, it was a crash and it held the peg. And now I'm like, oh, shit. I need to fucking understand this thing. So, I read MakerDAO for Dummies like 4 times, Then I finally kind of understood it. Then I went and just put a teeny bit of ETH and I borrowed some DAI and I paid off my debt and I bought Maker token and I went through the whole thing and I was like, okay, now I understand it. Like, you don't think you're stupid if you don't understand this stuff. And I also have learned one thing about myself. Like, I'm really bad at math. Like, I understand that I'm not just bad at math. I'm worse than a lot of people. And I'm like, okay, it's fine. I understand that about me. And I noticed, like, Uniswap, I read that I really wanted to understand how that math equation makes this thing work. And I can't even begin. So I had some of this stupid live PR I wanted to get rid of. I said, instead of getting rid of it, I'll stick it on Uniswap against Ether and I'll track. So I've had this little thing on Uniswap each week and I watch as the prices move and how much I make and where it goes. It's like, now I understand Uniswap. I don't know how to look at math. I don't read white papers. other than the roadmap. I love seeing roadmaps. I know how to track. You say you're going to launch on this date and you do or you don't. And I judge that a lot, which brings me to Augur, by the way, but I should finish that thought, which is, yeah, don't get discouraged if you don't understand this stuff. And you may be someone like me who doesn't understand shit when you read it, but you actually have to do it. And, I
always say that regarding math, I'm very good at it. It was when they brought the letters into it that I just stopped.
I was really good at it, but once we got to third grade, I was just like, I can't keep up anymore.
No. You're going to say something about Augur?
I used to memorize shit and get an A, and then literally not. And I don't know. I wish now that I wish like every time I have like, I'm trying to figure out the percent that something went up or down or something exponential. I'm always like, it's really, I sometimes too, I want to add things up and like, I don't even know how to do it in the calculator. I have to get a pencil and paper to do it the way they taught me in 5th grade by paper, because I don't even know how to put it in the calculator.
Yeah, or I just use the Google trick of percentage calculator and then click on the link and plug the numbers in. It's like, all right.
That sounds hard. And Augur. So now Augur is a funny one because, first of all, in 2017, before they launched, everyone was so excited. The price was crazy. And, what do I say? I was like, wait till it launches, see if anybody signs up. They launched. Nobody signed up. Okay. Then, so back in, I think it was January, they're launching their upgrade, which if you look at everything they're going to include in this upgrade, it looks cool. I'm like, maybe finally Augur, a betting platform will work. Like, I thought it's cool. Like, imagine if like I had an idea. I'm like, you have the election coming. You create a website that's just like bets on the election. You're like, oh, debates tomorrow. Oh, I have an idea. I'm going to make a bet that Trump will say China 7 times, or if the more you win, and you have a site focused on presidential bets, and anybody can create bets. And
beautiful. Yeah.
Like, this could be a lot of fun. And it's just like funny. You can just, I get it. Like, that could be cool. But that requires it being a good user interface and enough liquidity and users. And maybe that doesn't, I don't know. But they're launching the upgrade in the first quarter, and nobody's talking about it. Everybody talked about it before they launched last time, and then it sucked. Now it looks like it could be a cool upgrade, and nobody's talking about it. So I'm like, I'll get a little, because once they launch, it'll probably have a pop for that, and then I can see if it's good. And if it's not, then I get out. So I bought a little. Didn't launch. And I'm like, so what's going on now? Here we are, in May. I just saw an article. They're like, or they just came out with this. They're like, well, we can't launch because there was some bugs. And one of the ways they mentioned the bugs in the program, again, I think I tweeted on this one too. It was something like, yeah, I don't know. We're waiting for word and then we'll figure it out. It was very like, I don't know if they're going to launch this year. I mean, it's, you gotta, some of these things, it's like, oh, it's a great idea. It's launching very soon. And it turns out sometimes it's actually not a good idea. And sometimes it never launches. So I like to wait, see if it launches and if there's adoption. So forget about Augur now. I'll wait till they actually launch. Unless if I heard they're literally launching in 2 weeks and nobody's talking about it, I would get a little before the launch. But beyond that, no.
I can see it. You mentioned your Twitter again there, and I go back to the labeling a scam and Ponzi tweet. And that brings us to the last topic here, and that's Hex. I know you've done videos with Richard Hart, and I believe at some point you may have free claimed for some tokens. I was just curious as to what your latest view on that project is right now that we're probably halfway through the launch phase or close to it.
So I like Richard as a personality. It seems like a nice guy. I'm a little worried. I fear that he's, unless he's got a huge legal staff, which I feel like he's sort of underestimating the government. Like this is who they love to target, because they go after EOS. They don't get anything because they can't win against their lawyers and XRP. They're not going to get anything off of that. But someone like Richard Hart, they can make it a big example of him. They don't like this sort of thing that he's doing. I feel so. I worry about the government going after him.
I think he's done a lot more than EOS did in terms of laying out, I guess, the roadmap and the Howey test and expectation wise, and a lot of things that other projects failed to consider at the inception. He's such a smart guy that I think he literally thought of every possible thing, and maybe that's could be very well to his advantage.
I don't think that's how it works. I think that, now keep in mind, I just think there should be no regulations, and we should tell people don't be stupid and good way, like whatever. But there are regulations, and I think what it is, the bottom line is the government doesn't want anybody fucking with their system. They want, everybody's got to pay the master. So he's got a little project here, and he's not kissing anybody's ass, right? He's just launched this thing and is making money by creating a money. He's got a financial thing, and he's not on his knees asking for permission to anybody. So someone's going to come along eventually and say, you need to get on your knees. And, and then they take what they can. So, and I got a feeling EOS, hard to go after. They got a huge legal staff, big names. So I worry about that. But as far as what he's created,
I mean, the project is finished, and I mean, he could literally, as the saying goes, get run over by a bus, and it's there, it's done.
It's still it's going. It still go on, and it's real. I don't think it's a scam. I really don't think it's a Ponzi. Also, people. So there's all this liquidity on Uniswap, and people, it's all Richard, pumping the price. It's not. You can't. I guess you could pump the price on Uniswap. But here's the thing that is now totally accepted. It's the new way investments work. From the beginning, there's liquidity. There's a company has a project. Investors come in. Some of the money goes to the project, and some of the money goes onto Uniswap to provide liquidity for the investors. And the investors can get out right from the beginning because there's liquidity on Uniswap. So adding liquidity for your project for investors right away is sort of a normal thing. Richard isn't saying anything. He's not going to say it, but people are like, oh, all that liquidity on Uniswap, it's Richard. It's probably not 100% him. I don't know if it's 90%. I don't know if it's 10%, but I guarantee at the beginning, I don't guarantee, but my guess would be he added some liquidity. Why wouldn't he? He's building a token. It's a financial product thing that he's building, and he wants liquidity. Why wouldn't he go and add it on Uniswap? Do regulations say that's okay? I don't know, but if they want to get him in trouble for it, I'm sure they can figure out a way. But as far as people criticizing him for that, I think he's smart. I remember right at the beginning, I was like, oh, I wonder if Richard knows he can load up some liquidity on Uniswap. And the next day I see a tweet, Hex is on Uniswap. I'm like, okay, maybe someone else did it. Why wouldn't he? But I didn't even think of it at the beginning as, oh, that would be sketchy. That's smart, So I think he's a smart guy. And then but as far as an investment, for me, the analysis of it is more of a game than an investment. I get his thing of like, it has some value because people are locking, and when you're locking and it's different. But again, I view it as, if I was thinking, am I going to invest? It's like, well, are more people getting in? And what are the times of money unlocking? And it's all these like, to me, it's not, when I look at, Ethereum, it's like, what value are they adding to the world? Will they be adding more? I look at how derivatives are done now, and I think about how derivatives could be done on Ethereum. This is a much better way. People are doing this a lot. It's a real valuable thing. So I see that happening. And I see, with other projects, they're adding value. Even, Binance, it's like, well, it's like they're really good at trading, and they have liquidity, and they have their dollar token. They're helping people do things they couldn't do before. What is Richard's thing? It's sort of just like a lock up your money game and hope you make money and more people come in. You could almost say that's what Bitcoin is, but it's not 2009, right? It's better than Bitcoin, but and listen, the thing may continue to go to the moon. It's been going straight up, like to the point that it's
retraced by probably about 50% of the first move now. So it's like, oh yeah, absolutely. And I would argue,
it's 550 million market cap. Like,
just to jump in on your points there about, I guess, knowing, where transactions or whatever. Just, I think, talking about the transparency of it, I would argue it's one of the, if not the most transparent crypto. You can see when actually stakers are ending. I mean, there are so many stat sites out there now that it's like, okay, this person is set to sell when. Granted, they can emergency end stake and then pay this massive penalty. But if they do that, then if you're a staker, you get rewarded with that, which is, I think, genius. So it's, you can actually see where the ETH came from. So, we have these huge ETH buys that come in, and you can see kind of like where the Bitcoin, wallet moved, earlier this week. You can see where that ETH came from. And, some of these were, from the Genesis block way back from the very beginning. And then you have this huge block come in and buy up Hex. And it's like, oh, okay, well, that, could be a very significant transaction just because of what point in time, that ETH came from. So I think that stuff is just so interesting to me, and it's very transparent as far as I'm concerned, just regarding that. But didn't want to interrupt you too much there.
Yeah, well, I agree that it's decentralized. My only concern about centralization would be Richard probably owns a ton of the tokens. That's a
lot of crypto, though. I mean, Binance, I think, has like 80% locked up between a few wallets. So, if I'm not mistaken,
locked up.
Or not locked up, I'm sorry, but just in a few addresses.
Yeah.
Ripple, things like that. So.
It's not, I don't know how to analyze it, I guess is my point. Like, I know how to analyze like what is going to be a use in the world or whatever. This is like, it's just like, are people going to adopt it? Or if it's a game, are people going to play it and try to gamble in it? I don't know. That's not my thing. Now, on the other hand, he was giving it away for free if you had Bitcoin. So I got some for free. Okay. And my thought is, okay, when I'm allowed to sell it after a year, I'll sell it. Somebody said something, I don't even pay attention to how it works, but there's something about, there's this big payout.
Big payday. It's like, I want to say November 19th-ish, something like that.
Yeah, and I'm able to sell, whatever it is, late December or January. So, my guess is the thing keeps going straight up. Then there's a big payday, and the price plummets for a month, and then then it's at the ultimate low on the day I'm able to sell. That's probably what happens. But whatever.
You could always restake it. So
I hope it does well. I love it because it pisses people off. I love shit like that.
Oh, especially the maximalists. That was the first thing that came to mind when I read your tweet the other day, is like Hex and then Ethereum and everything else.
Yeah, it's almost like one good sign to it is that there's really, I can't find anything terribly wrong with it. It's not a scam. It's not, I have no reason to dislike it, but everybody hates it. Why don't people hate Tron like they hate Hex? So that almost makes me like it, and I root for it even after I sell it. I hope it goes really high. It's just hilarious to think that Richard, he's just like, he's a funny, normal guy. To see him as the top of one of the top coins, I just seeing him on CNBC to me is just funny and entertaining. So I hope him the best.
The idea of that would enrage so many
people hate him because he's got that. I have a little of that sort of like, I used to be more of a wannabe rebel, and then I respect that sort of attitude. So,
yeah. All right. Looks like we have one more question here before we wrap up. Facebook's Libra coin, I've commented on this past. Will it launch eventually?
Well, as I said in the beginning, I think they're going to pivot and launch, and they seem to be pivoting, but what is it going to be? Like, I don't see any information as to what it will really be. And they've sort of taken this route that they're going to just sort of go through regulators, which I don't know how that works. Although maybe they think that,
it's kind of like they kind of tried to rush it across the goal line, and then they got penalized, and now it's like, oh crap, what do we do now? And then you're trying to find another alternative route.
I don't think they tried to rush it. I feel rushing across the goal line would have been, hey, we're launching this right now, and everyone's like, what? And then maybe because it's already out.
Without even okay, I got you.
What they did is they presented, look at this thing we're doing. which sort of undermines the US dollar. And everybody in Congress is like,
they pump the brakes on it.
no. Plus, even if it's not a bad idea, they want to be in charge. They want, like I said, they want to get their hand in all the cookie jars. If you're dealing with money, they want to be able to, you know, you need to pay the piper, kiss some ass. And, you know, Facebook's just like, no, we're going to do our own thing. Like, why would you announce that? So anyways, I don't know what they'll come up with and what it'll look like. But there hasn't, I don't think, been much information. And so part of me thinks it could just be some like internal coin, like, you know, I don't know, some bank, you know, like whatever, like Venmo, I don't know, that works on Facebook. Or maybe it's an actual token, but, you know, stable coin. But now they're like, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what they're doing. I don't see anything about it launching anytime soon. I'm more interested in China launching. Like they're already testing their payment system, and China's thing looks like it rolls out over a few years, but it's already sort of starting. And
is that like the digitized yuan?
They're doing a blockchain token. They're starting with payments within China. Will be on a blockchain, and then they'll tell Weibo and whatever, all these apps that already have a lot of volume, you got to use our system, and all payments are going to be on a blockchain system. And then they're going to move to other things, put other things on it as well, and they're going to connect it to Ethereum. And you know, it's moving, it's launching. I kind of know what it is. You know, Facebook is like, I don't know what it is. I don't know when it's launching. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know. No idea.
All right. Well, I think we've gone close to 3 hours, so I guess it's a good time to start to wrap up. Seemed like it's only been an hour, but good conversation. I thank you. So figured we'd wrap up with something I'll call 21 questions, one more than 20, just to be better. And I kind of like blackjack anyway. But these are just kind of like a more fun, rapid style, first thing comes to your mind kind of thing. So when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I think I wanted to have my own business was always my thing, because my father had his own business, his father had his own business, my mother's parents had and it was always in my parents used to sort of say, that was the thing. I never thought of getting a job. It was always, I'm going to have my own business. And I wasn't even what kind of business. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to have my own business. That was my thing.
What was your first job?
Delivered papers, paper route when I was like, I don't know, 14, maybe 13, in the morning, get up at 5 in the morning. And I remember actually while delivering papers, it would be at 5 in the morning, and I'd drive up and down the street, and I used to make 20 to 30 bucks a week, which I thought was a lot back then. And I used to listen to this little radio on my bike. And I remember this is in the 70s. Yeah. So I must've been like 10. Or maybe 12, right? Because that was when gold, I remember hearing it and it kept going up. It was up. And I said to my parents, I want to buy gold. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I don't know. I hear it on the radio. It's exciting. And I'm like, I don't know. And then I said it again, I want to buy gold. And then it started becoming a mania in the late 70s, and the price was going. And finally, my parents were like, okay, we'll get gold. And they're like, then I still remember in my kitchen, and they're on the phone with this guy, and it was like $800 and something. And my father's like, no. And he hung up. And if you look at the price, that was like, we ticked the top. Thank God my father said no, but you know, we finally.
That's when it usually happens, is when you usually get contacted about it, and then it's like, okay, well, everybody else is in, so maybe that's not a good sign.
That's the high, and I didn't buy it, or my father didn't buy it for me.
First stock you ever owned?
Well, actually, so my father again he had some stocks for me, you know, and so I had a few. It was like, none of the names stand out for me. It was my father's no super sophisticated investor. I wasn't in early. It was just like he'd own Ford and, you know, GE and whatever, some boring companies, and get in when people know that they're okay, and goes up when the market goes up, goes down and down. And when after I graduated college, he gave it to me, and I don't know, it was like $50,000 worth of stocks that I had. And then I took over. In hindsight, to be honest with you, and if I have a kid, I would like make sure they know. I didn't know anything. He just gave it to me. I'm like, and I started trading. Like, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I was really stupid with investing for quite a while, actually. So I don't even know which stock. I used to like Boeing a long time ago. I still, well, I hope that there's a day I can get back into Boeing. But, you know, I don't know.
First crypto you ever owned?
Bitcoin.
Last book you really enjoyed reading?
The last one? Well, I'm currently reading this one about Bretton Woods, which I got to say I don't enjoy it, but I need to know what happened. So I'm reading it long and it's painful, and I can't get through this book. I read 10 pages and I'm ready to pass out. I just got a book on Amazon about Coinbase. It's a brand new book that's not even coming out till January, but if you get it on Audible on Amazon, it's free. And if I listen to the whole book in less than 30 days, I can then cancel Audible because I don't actually like Audible. I'd rather read, or I listen to YouTube if I'm listening. So I'm listening to this Coinbase book, and it's one of these fun, like Bitcoin Billionaires, if you read that book. It's like it's history, but it's fun reading.
Like the Winklevi?
There's a lot of history that can be ponderous, you know. And, you know, there's so many books I love. As far as the last, I mean, like Genghis Khan and how he took over the world. That's like a long book, but really interesting and exciting. I only read nonfiction, and I love to learn about history. I mean, I could go on. There's a million books I like.
Have to send me the name of that Coinbase book. I have an Audible account. Not that it's active right now, but I'd be curious to check that one out.
Yeah. I could look up the. If it just came out like yesterday.
Oh, okay.
And I've already listened to chapter 3 when I'm doing nothing because I got to get through it. Kings of Crypto by John Roberts.
All right. Got it. All right. What is or would be your go-to song on karaoke night?
I have no abilities. My go-to move is to either just somehow have fun without getting on stage. There's a few songs that, or if I go with people, I can sometimes, the thing is I can actually match tone if I'm singing with somebody. Mm-hmm. But when I just hear a song, like I cannot do it. So I would have to go up with people, and I have no music memory either. So it has to be a song that I really know, and I'm going up with other people, and I can have fun, and I'm not shy, and I can act like an idiot and like get into it. And like, or I'll do some backup, like, yeah, you know, funny, yeah, at the right time, you know, shit like that. That would be my move.
If you could only eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Sushi.
All right, I feel you there. If money was no object, what would you do all day?
Well, I love no object, so I could spend. I love this stuff about education. I'd love to revolutionize education. If I could, like, pay people to take my education courses and people like have meetings with me and like spend money to make and have an impact on education, I would do that. I hope, I would work on education.
I like it. If money was no object, you'd spend it to,
I'd give it away.
Yeah, there you go.
This, I'll pay you.
This is interesting. You mentioned 5-year time horizon for Bitcoin when we were talking about it, and I had this in advance, obviously. Bitcoin's price in 5 years.
At $10,000.
Oh, all right. Just a little bit above where we are now. Interesting.
Bitcoin is that 100 years from now, it's going to be the same price.
All right. This one will be a little more fun for you then. Ethereum in 5 years.
10,000.
Oh, I'd love that. All right. If you could enjoy a meal with 3 other individuals, living or dead, who would they be?
Hold on. By the way, Ethereum 10,000. I didn't add up what that that's with no research. And now that I'm looking at it, so 5x would be 1,000, and then so 5,000 is let's say 5,000. Okay. Anyways,
still fine.
What was the next question?
Still fine with that answer. If you could enjoy a meal with 3 other individuals, living or dead, who would they be?
Oh my God.
I know.
I would really have to think about that. Who? Well, this Chamath. I love talking to Chamath. Trying to think. There's so many people I listen to, but I'm trying to think who would be good if I asked questions like Chamath's good. So I feel like, because I love Warren Buffett, but I feel like if I asked, he's always so, and like his annual meeting this year, he's like said nothing, and like he's always like, oh, it'll be fine. Oh, I think it'll be higher. I think this investment will be better than treasury bonds 20 years from now. Like, okay, yeah, but
he just sits and talks at the table for
yeah. So, I don't know. The problem with this question is I have so many people I want to talk to. I don't know. You know, part of me thinks like a good comedian, like I love, because it would just be funny. But then again, 3 people, I have to have maybe 6. I like want to have one person and talk to them for like 2 hours, and then another.
Yeah, think of it that way then.
Go to my Twitter, you see who I follow, but those are only people who actually tweet. There's probably some really smart people I'd love to hear from that never tweet.
Would Elon Musk be in that group? Maybe?
Oh yeah, I gotta have Elon. My God.
Okay. There you go.
So that's 2. Thank you.
Yep.
And who's 3?
Satoshi Nakamoto. Vitalik. There you
go. How about this is, I don't know if I get myself in trouble. What's her name? Hold on, I'm totally forgetting. She's in charge of blockchain at JP Morgan. And I think she's single and she's really good looking. And I'm sort of in love with her. You know, if I invited her to this dinner, that's a good date.
It's an intelligent conversation that you'd be having. So, all right.
Yeah.
I'll have to Google that one. Biggest pet peeve?
Pet peeve meaning something that happened. How would you define pet peeve? I know it's a stupid question, but now that I have to answer it.
Something that others do that annoys you highly, I guess, would be a good one good version of putting it.
I don't know. I guess I just bullshit and you know, people being phony. It's so pointless.
There you go. If you're dropped onto a deserted island by a helicopter, kind of like Survivor style, what 3 items would you take with you?
You know, I love what my I guess somehow this came up. I was in a game and my daughter answered this. She said, my tablet, and I think she said me. You know what I mean? It was so cute. So I guess my phone, unlimited sushi. I don't know how that would be possible. So
maybe just a sushi supply kit.
Right. A sushi chef. So a sushi restaurant. We'd have that installed. I've got my phone and my Tom Brady rollers, so I can, you know, keep myself. So I'd be healthy with the rolling, you know, and I got my food and I got my phone, which would have to be my social life. Unfortunately, I don't have any humans to bring. I guess my kids. I'd bring my kids.
There you go.
Oh, well, it's tough. I'd hate to have them live without me, but I'd hate to make them stuck on an island with me.
Favorite TV show right now or series?
Oh, I rarely watch TV like for a while, but I recently found, and I love, because it's so hard for me to find shows I like. I'm so into nonfiction, and when anything's fiction, I'm always like, well, that's not real, and then I hate it. I can't stand any shows that are trying to be kind of real, but then they're not real. I liked Game of Thrones because they weren't trying to be real.
Yeah, until that last season.
I found a show on Amazon called The Expanse, and I really like it. I'm on season 3. I'll be sad when it's over. So I've been watching this, The Expanse. Have you seen that?
No, we're on Narcos right now, wife and I.
I don't know. Oh, Narcos.
Yeah.
Well, check out this. The Expanse. It's Earth and Mars, and then people live on spaceships. It's like in the future, and it's really cool how they live. Like most of it takes place in space, and they really have done a good job with like just how no gravity. Like they have these shoes that when they hit a button, it can go and it sticks to the ground and then you can't breathe, but they just really, it's really, well, realistic in how living in space affects things. And it's really a cool show. But again, it's not trying to be real, so I can deal with it.
That's on Amazon Prime?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Favorite sport to watch or play?
Well, I used to love water skiing, but I'm like too old now. I get injured. Snow skiing, I love. I think I can still do it. To watch football, basketball. It used to be basketball, but now that I'm so less involved and I don't know, I feel like if I don't know either team and I'm not particularly rooting for one side, football I can still enjoy even if I care about nobody and neither team. Whereas basketball I used to be super into. It was maybe more exciting, but I also loved, it's from Boston, and I loved my team and the players, and I knew the rivalries, and I was, I hated LA and so, and it's a great game to watch. Basketball and football, I don't know. Also,
what's your favorite curse word, Dave?
Favorite? I don't know. I'd probably say shit a lot. Pungent. Those are the two best for sure.
Right. If Ethereum went to your 10K target tomorrow, what's the first thing that you would buy?
10K, 10,000. I'd have ridiculous money. I'd get a stupid house, like, because I'm actually renting right now. It's inexpensive. It's easy, and house is such a bad investment. But if I have FU money, I'd just buy kind of an FU house. Like,
why not? Yeah.
If I have that much money that I don't care that it's an investment, and I'm spending all of this money just for like a little bit of space that I don't need, like that actually, and then I gotta get cleaning people and like it's a pain in the ass. But if I got FU money, why not?
Yeah, I think then and only then one would buy a Lambo. Otherwise, if you're still on the way up and you don't have the FU money, it's just such a waste, and you can buy a Tesla or whatever. So
yeah, I'm not into cars. I don't want a Lambo. Like,
yeah,
I love my Tesla. Tesla's not that expensive.
Right.
Tesla, you can get a decent one for like 50,000, I would imagine. Like the cheapest is 40, whatever. That's not, you don't need $1 million to get a Tesla. Plus, because you're going to have a car anyway. So how much more is it than the other car you would buy?
Yeah.
I don't need 10,000. Well, I already got a Tesla, but
celebrity crush.
I'm so out of like mainstream and entertainment. Like I don't.
Past or present? I mean, I even remember Heather Locklear as a kid was mine. So
yeah, I remember okay, she did this dating show. What's her name? Blonde, and she was kind of a comedian, and she was really hot on MTV like a million years ago.
Jenny McCarthy?
Yes. So she was on that date. I was just like, oh my God, I was so in love with her. And then in Hollywood, for a few years, I was like really cool in Hollywood. And then I was going, this one guy I was friends with, he's like, hey, my so-and-so works with some situation where Jenny McCarthy wants to go out in Hollywood. And I told her that you're connected. And there was this club that was cool, and I could give her a table. Like I wasn't even buying tables. It's a long story, but I could, give her a table with me. He's like, she wants to come out with it. I'm like, Jenny McCarthy. So, I guess I got some big limo. It was her and a couple of her friends and me and some of my friends. And so it was kind of funny. Most celebrities do what she did. Is like, they're so like, she's like wearing a hat and sitting down. Like she's always hiding. Like she's so important. And then she had like, I don't want to talk shit, but she, I don't know, a little, her face. She didn't, I don't know. It was a little bit of I wasn't that into it actually. As opposed to now, Paris Hilton back in the day. I remember when I first moved to Hollywood, she walks into some club. I'm like, who is that porn star? Like she's wearing nothing, like looked like a porn star. And then she actually, so I'm sitting there on this couch. She literally sits next to me. And So my landlord, I was renting a place, was her landlord, and I knew that. She's sitting next to me. I go, you know, we have the same landlord. She was like, oh, really? And then we started talking. And I was kind of like, okay, she's hot. And then so then my neighbor, this kid, he went to high school with her, and he had a birthday party, and so he's having a party and he's inviting Paris Hilton. And so we go to this party, and just to give you to make the story short, I'm in this house, and my friend texts me. He goes, how's the party? I go, well, it's only about 20 people. Well, there's 15 guys and 3 girls, but the 3 girls are Paris Hilton, her sister, and who's the girl she always hung out with? Singer's daughter, Nikki something, or
Nicole Richie.
Nicole Richie. I'm like, those are the 3 girls. He's like, I'll be there in a minute. And I remember so in Paris, you know, she's walking around with her bikini the whole time. And I remember it's like a pool party. Now it's like 7 at night. Everybody's dressed. It's getting cold. And she's still with her bikini. And I can't do it with the camera here. But if you can imagine standing and the most protruding thing is your vagina. You know what I'm saying? And she stands with her bikini just like, and she's just standing there like this. And in the house, and we're just like standing around talking. And we're all wearing clothes. And she's just in her bikini like. And this giant dog lived in the house, and the dog comes walking over, walks right up to her, goes right up to her bikini bottom and goes, I was like, that dog knows exactly what is going on here. So and I gave her a sextoy.com t-shirt. And
well, at that point, why not? Yeah. Okay.
And then one time we were in a club, and she came up to me, she's like, oh, your shirt, you know, I wore it last night to sleep. I'm like, wow, I'm so close. And then she did her reality show, and then I talked to her, and I said something like, oh, I don't know, I'm doing something, or I'm having a part. I don't know what I said to her, and she's like, oh, I can't do anything anymore. You know, like now I'm mainstream. Now I'm too famous for you. Like she just was straightforward. I was like, listen, I love you, but now I'm too famous. So, you know, I was like, okay.
She was honest, I guess, right?
Yeah, I guess.
What motivates you to work hard?
I come up with things that motivate me to achieve. So I'm like, oh, wouldn't it be amazing if, you know, schools were teaching this, or if people were able to learn that, or wouldn't it be amazing if I created a course, or wouldn't it be amazing if I found a token that went up by 100x? Okay, that would be amazing. So how do I get there? I'll do all these things. Well, I'm motivated to do all those things because I think it's going to lead to this thing that's amazing. So then I'm motivated. If you're not, you know, I like to say motivation is a function of your plan. If you're not motivated, you don't have a good plan. Like you're not, like apparently you don't think it's an exciting thing that you're working on. So come up with something more exciting, or make the finish line more exciting, you know.
That's a good way of looking at it. What accomplishment are you most proud of?
I guess I feel like creating the one of the first affiliate programs on the internet is sort of unique, and sort of proves that I was early on something that was big. You know, I'll take that one.
All right.